Hello and welcome everybody to the inaugural Marvel Rivals season for Welsh Esports League Season 7. My name is JudasPriestley, joined today by Speedy. And Speedy, it's a special day always to bring in a new game. And like I said, this is Marvel Rivals. What are you expecting to see today?
Uh, I can't really say too much. I'm not obviously the biggest Rivals player when it comes to this sort of game. If it was Overwatch, it would be my best form of cup of tea, but still can't really get too much out of the metal ranks. So hopefully some of these players can, and we can have some form of an entertaining game today.
Yeah, see, of course, like you said, some of the players might still be in those metal ranks, or maybe have made it up to the precious metals or the gemstones, even. But, like you said, it's a new game, still relatively early in its life cycle, right? I think we've just entered Season 1 outside of Season 0, so still plenty of things shaping up, and people trying to work out still, what's the best meta, what's the best compositions to go for. We're even still trying to work out exactly how the picks phase is going to work, because I was under the impression we were just rocking two bands, but it does seem like we've got some extra secret pick. I don't even know what it is, but I'm really excited to see it. But I would like to have a quick run through the format for everyone. So this will be a first to three series. That's right, first to three, not best of three, because we do have the potential to have some draws. And if you do have a draw, of course, nobody really, it wouldn't be fair to lose a best of three over a draw. So we're going to have first to three, but the maps will cycle between a convoy map, a convergence map, and a domination map. So the convergence map's the one where you want to keep an eye out for these draws. Speedy, I will ask you, since you played the game at least a touch, which of these game modes is your preferred one to play, and which one do you hate the most?
Oh, well, if we're going off of things that I hate the most, my PC doesn't typically run this game so well. So
So the whole game.
I would probably go for the one that's more essentially the King of the Hill mode. But that's only really because I just don't like the mode, because the moment that I finish one map, we get halfway through the next round and I've not even loaded into the lobby yet. But if we're going off favorites, it's gotta be the payload maps. Just a bit of fun you can have sitting in the back, holding a sniper, or just playing a bit special with Adam Warlock and spam healing where you can.
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone tends to prefer these payload maps, right? They just seem to have the most versatility. They, as much as it's literally just a payload going along a track, it always seems to have the most interesting setups, because the map essentially changes as you go, right? You could push 10 meters and all of a sudden you're in a different situation, different sort of strengths and weaknesses of certain compositions. So excited to see how that goes. And like I said, we will have three, so first to three of these games, but also three separate matches today. So we're planning on starting with the Wizards versus the Red Kites. After that, it'll be the Pit Ponies versus the Red Kites, and then the Wolfhounds versus the Rejects. And there we go. We see the group stages coming up there. So 5 teams to play for here, and of course, the Wolfhounds and the Rejects will automatically win a game over the Red Kites, Pit Ponies, and Wizards. But it is all about your seeding, because of course, you want to be the top team in Group B, because the top team in Group B still has to play the top team, gets to play the second team from Group A. You certainly don't want to have to come up against another top team if you can avoid it. Next week, of course, we're planning on doing the semi-finals and potentially more after that. We will see exactly how these broadcasts go. But it's one of those things, Speedy. We can't really use past success for these teams when it comes to Marvel Rivals, because as much as there's a lot of similarities between this game and Overwatch, it's still a completely different game. And you might have a specific skill set in Overwatch 2, for example, that doesn't translate as well over to Marvel Rivals. So we might see some shakeup of the usual stars.
Yeah, like obviously you said, it's a bit different with Overwatch 2. Obviously, Overwatch 2, you have your two supports, your two DPS, and your one tank. You have the roll lock, unless you're a little bit weird and you like to play the open queue roles a bit. But with Marvel Rivals, it's a bit of a mixture. You have your high tempos and you have your low tempos. You're not really going to have your comps where you're kind of matching out in the middle there. So what I'm really expecting here to see is just either a bit of meta abuse or either a bit more entertainment. As long as I'm not stuck here watching a Wolverine getting launched across the continent within the first 30 seconds, I think we're going to be in for a bit of enjoyment today.
Yeah, like you said, there's potential for these sets to go either way. We really don't know. It might just be, standard meta. Like you said, I think 3 supports being top of the meta right now. 3 supports, 2 tanks, 1 DPS. That sounds like a total snooze fest. But it could also be something completely different, right? Especially if you're coming up against a team that's equal to you. If they're just better at playing the meta than you, then you might seem to struggle. But we do seem to be finally kicking off. And yeah, this is that picks and bans phase that I was talking about. It looks like each team gets 1 ban, which is picked by the team captain. And then it seems like you get to protect a pick. That's my best guess. We only saw this in a bot game while we were just running through it, and the bots, they don't like to ban anything. They're brave like that. They just want to see everything go. But it will be the Red Kites on defense to start with, and the Wizards attacking to start with. Speedy, if you ever had the choice on a payload map, do you choose to attack first or to defend first?
Personally, I choose to defend first, only because it allows me to just know what I got to push coming up into my attack round. Whereas if I'm obviously attacking first, the pressure's on me to build that spot, and then the defense following on is to just stop them from reaching that same spot. So personally, in my opinion, defending first is just a lot better. But with these bans we're seeing, it does look like the Red Kites aren't actually banning or saving any picks.
Look, it's just maximum bravery, or the Wizards. The Red Kites have just chosen to put someone as their leader who decided to go and get a drink, which would be very unfortunate. But either that, or they just want this to be as open a game as possible. And yeah, it does look like that's another pick skipped. So we still won't work out exactly how this mechanic goes, but I definitely think once teams get used to this setup and get used to what we're all seeing, we might figure out what is going on a little bit more. But yeah, like you said, Red Kites are on defense. I believe they got to select their choice. In fact, I think the Wizards chose to attack first by the looks of things. So ill-advised by you, Speedy, but maybe they just feel like momentum is something you really want to work with. But I think I agree with you on these payload maps, right? If you're the defenders, and you get like a really nice stall, right, and they only get to like the first point or so, it looks really good. It feels good to be in that spot, and you definitely want to be that side. But I guess if you're attacking as well and you get a really nice attack, then all sorts of different ways of momentum and ways of figuring out the game can make a bit of a difference. It does look like we are going to have a remake on that lobby, because the teams wanted to ban, they wanted to protect their picks, but nothing seemed to be going through. So, of course, brand new game, or relatively new game, not surprised to see anything like that. But we did see a Storm ban, Speedy, and I do think that was one of the characters you mentioned of being, just in this oppressive meta comp. It has a Storm as the DPS. With Storm off the table, you have some hopes that we might see something a little bit different.
Well, obviously we are going to be seeing a bit different stuff. It's going to be entirely dependent on adaptability now coming into this. So I'm expecting either some character abuse in forms of, say, Hela, Iron Man. You also have your Hawkeyes. And then, obviously, by the looks of it, if we didn't have any other tank or support bands going in there, I think we're just going to be watching a possible meta comp following with the Magneto, the Strange, the Mantis, Cloak and Dagger, and then I'd assume that the final will probably just be like a Luna Snow, maybe even an Adam Warlock. But it does look like it's just going to be going into either meta ban or a meta play. So it's going to be interesting to see how they adapt towards these bans.
Yeah, like you say, when there's a pretty well-established top 6 characters, right, in most situations, but the bans, I think, is what really makes it interesting, right? You can't just play the same composition every time, because not only can you play that top composition, the enemy team can play that top composition, and if they're playing it better than you, then you need to quickly work out how to deal with it and how to counter it, basically. So I'm hoping that we do get to really see some variation of the heroes that come on into it, because as much as you've got your classic like hit scan styles, like you mentioned, like you got your Hellas, and while not a hit scan, functionally works like a hit scan with the Hawkeye as well, maybe some Punisher coming in, but then like you said, you mentioned the flyers like Storm, which we did see off the table, but Iron Man coming into it as well. I've also seen a lot of people picking up Squirrel Girl when you really need to break a point as well, so definitely a lot of potential. It's just Are the players feeling brave enough in this first Marvel Rivals game of the season to actually branch out? And I think I'll throw it to you again, Speedy. If this was, let's maybe put you in the Overwatch 2 mindset, right? Get you back in a safe space. But if you are playing against a team that is a complete unknown to you, you don't really know yourself how good your team is that the time to experiment with compositions, or would you try to pick something that is, tried and true, not by yourselves maybe, but by the rest of the community? Would you stick to that set composition?
Not really. If it's a team that, obviously, like you said, you have no understanding about, you don't know what they're going to be running, you're going to probably want to try and play towards your strengths. Like in recent seasons, for example, well, not seasons, but recent weeks, since obviously they've released their new patch notes, there's been a lot of changes towards what people are playing in regards to, obviously, you have your Winston players now coming back, you have your Wrecking Ball players, Hazard every now and then by those who want to abuse the competitive ladder. But it's entirely dependent, obviously, on what you can see people running. There's the counter swap options that you always have. There's also the strength play to your strength options that you always have. So it's honestly kind of similar with Rivals. If it's cases where your characters are being banned and you possibly ban theirs, they don't know what you're going to run, you don't know what they're going to run, you're going to want to try and play off your strengths and just do what you can to just get the final edge that you need for these games.
Definitely going to keep an eye out for anyone who has that secret pocket pick, right? I know when I was grinding up the ranked ladders, a lot of people were discussing Black Panther as being a particularly weak character, and I bumped into some guy who he played Black Panther in one of my games and did really well. I got him in the next game, he did really well again. I was like, hey mate, do you want to party up, so you carry me a little bit through gold? We did. He slammed Black Panther every game, and I swear to you, I never saw him have a bad game. All of a sudden, everyone's worked out that character might be all right. We similarly saw with Rivals there was the phase of Iron Fist just being king of the meta, and all of a sudden just completely vanished off the face of the earth. I don't even remember the last time that I saw an Iron Fist. It does quite quickly shuffle, especially when teams start working out, who have the best team ups. Because if you're new to Marvel Rivals and you didn't know how that works, there's certain character combinations that actually grant new abilities or new stats to certain heroes. So a classic example right now is if you have a Bruce Banner on the same team as a Doctor Strange, it actually empowers Doctor Strange's second ability. So he has this pulse of damage around him, but if he charges that pulse up too much, it may cause him to be unable to heal. However, if you have a Bruce Banner on your side, that anti-heal debuff completely goes away. And we see that a lot. Magneto, if he's partnered with a Scarlet Witch, gets a massive sword of energy that just does crazy damage. It can literally just solo out entire teams. It's interesting to see how much of a swing those team-ups have caused in this game. From the starting metas where people thought, Hulk is very weak, Iron Man, there's no point picking them. Hold on, Hulk and Iron Man have a team-up. All of a sudden, Hulk and Iron Man every game. Very quickly you get to see that. And I do wonder if that's something that the teams will rely on today. Are they going to pick based on team-ups, or, again, stick to things that individual players are comfortable on? But hopefully we get to have better ideas. We get to look at this picks and bans phase. Hopefully everything goes to plan.
Yeah, obviously, hopefully we all want to see every player having fun and enjoying the game, somewhat doing what they can. It looks like starting off, though, it's gone straight into a Hulk ban, which I think might have something to do with seeing a certain somebody insta trying to lock the Hulk off the bat in the last round, following on by a Storm ban as well. So it might be a bit more interesting following on now, because it looks like they are trying to ban against the meta, and none of them have actually picked towards those meta characters, really.
Yeah, seeing a Venom there. Venom, very simple, very reliable, but not top of the meta. Like you say, he certainly has his place, but definitely not, compared to Doctor Strange, not quite so reliable. We do see that Venom quite quickly switch to a Doctor Strange, and I'm not too shocked about that, but I would love to see this Groot pickup coming in. Yeah, has currently been locked in. Groot, one of those characters that just has a lot of fun potential, but only if you're the person playing Groot. Everyone else really does not like seeing all those tree walls go up. Double Loki on both sides. That's really interesting. Not what I expected to see as well. But as you do see these comps finally build up, I think we were totally wrong, Speedy. I'm not seeing a lot of meta coming out. I think this will just be a few players just playing whatever they want.
Yeah, like by the looks of it, what we're seeing, we are still seeing the 3-2-1, but obviously in a completely different way to how I originally expected it to be following on the meta. Obviously, there's the three supports following on there from Rocket, Loki, and I believe that is the Lunar Snow on behalf of the Red Kites, followed with the Moon Knight and the Punisher with the Strange. And then you obviously have your Wizards who are doing the opposite essentially. They're running their one support, their two. Oh no, they're running the 2-2-2.
Triple twos, yeah.
A bit of a nice even comp. Whereas Cats Eats Cats is more interested in breaking the map than the enemy team.
Yeah, definitely. I think I agree with the Wizards' choice here to go with a double tank just to get this push sorted out. Magneto, of course, a lot stronger while attacking here, but on this particular map, Groot, with the way he can cut off so many angles with those walls, I wouldn't be too surprised seeing that. Do you see the team up there coming through from the Rocket Raccoon and the Punisher here, giving infinite ammo to the Punisher. So a lot of consistent damage coming out there from Jimmy69 on the Red Kites, and similarly, you combine that with the Moon Knight as well. Again, one of those characters that just does a lot of damage consistently there. But already, push stalled out by the Wizards. Didn't even make it to that first choke point.
Yeah, like you said, they're just applying the pressure, applying all the damage they can. Only problem in regards to what they're running, obviously they have the Punisher and the Rocket just farming that damage. But with a comp that's being run like the Wizards, Billy's not going to really get too much value necessarily running that Moon Knight into it, because he just doesn't really have the burst potential that he can in comparison to the other DPS characters that he is actually playing.
Oh, I like the choice here from Dizda on the Wizards, switching to the Captain America to try to break this open. And yeah, Fate of Both Worlds coming out from Nate Dogg, first ultimate of this game, does provide that invulnerability for quite some time. Immediately countered out by the other Lunar Snow coming out from a Loki, which is again countered out by another Loki on the other side. So we've seen 3 Lunar Snow ultimates, so that is about 36 seconds of not really a whole lot happening. But of course, with the Red Kites using their ultimate last, they're going to take this big push that was countered from the Wizards, broke through the choke, but didn't manage to get much further.
Yeah, Lunar Snow ults it does so much healing and allows you to sustain so much if your team can actually just collapse on each other. Following that with the actual partnerships that you see between these characters, obviously you have your Rocket and your Punisher who are just farming damage through on the tanks. And then the Wizards just not really having a solution to follow up onto it. Obviously, we see the Cat being brought out to possibly try and allow that space to be taken. But if you're going off of general opinion and general value stats, Cap is arguably probably the worst tank in the game currently to play. Whereas you have the opposite being followed from the Kites, running that Strange, running the meta tank, and just doing what they can.
Oh, we see the Freedom Charge coming out there from Dizda, again breaking the base open. Again, the big cheese with this Lunar Snow ultimate, creating a lot of space, but nobody going down for the Red Kites just yet. Somehow staying alive through all of this. Everything coming out. Kraken Impact as well, not finding the executes right on cue. There comes the Fate of Both Worlds, just seeing everything coming out. Nate Dogg pops the Mantis ult too. So much healing, so much action. Another Hand of Concert coming out right on top of the point. Now, finally, it looks like the Red Kites are starting to fall down. Wizards, despite everything being put up in defense, it looks like the Wizards have done it.
We could say that, but we do see a res coming out on behalf of Billy from the Rocket Revival, and they do manage to find 2 kills there while the team is actually respawning, which could possibly give the Red Kites the respawn time they need and hope to come through with a huge, massive Strange ult following through from Conchcast, allowing the Wizards just to take that space and win that, by the looks of it now, win that round.
All right, well, if anyone was wondering why we said Strange is so good and so high value, that's it right there. Portal to the point, AoE ult, absolutely everyone, clear that space, and I don't think there's going to be time. Maybe a touch to come through from this Thor from Dodds coming up. No, doesn't make it, so it will not be that first point for the Wizards. But they did get it a lot of the way, and, you know, you've seen it yourself, Speedy. On maps like this, especially with that horrible choke point at the start, you only need to get a good defense for a couple of minutes to prevent it going that far.
Yeah, because obviously when you're running into choke points like that, you can get through that choke point with the payload. But the moment you do that and your team stop focusing on payload, all you're just going to do is just get bursted out every single fight, unless you can try and find the countersuit. Obviously, I mentioned about how Disda running the Cap possibly currently being the worst tank character in the game. But it does look like Disda is switching up to the Punisher here, where both teams will, by the look of it, just be running the one tank now coming into this.
I find it a lot less reliable having just the one tank on defense for the Wizards, you know, not having that extra health pool just to keep you alive, but especially so having just the Groot, right? Groot, no mobility in the kit as a tank, so if that Groot goes down, we are talking a good 30, if not 40 seconds before they can get back into the fight, and, well, that's, again, the complete opposite when you see the Doctor Strange. Strange can obviously make it back very, very quickly, so definitely need to have some questions raised for this composition chosen by the Wizards, but they've got the Rocket, they've got the Punisher, they have that consistent damage output. They just need to try to put it all together here. But I would like to see how the Red Kites opt to do this. You know, similar composition, if not the exact same composition to the first time. In fact, immediately portaling behind, looking to break this choke point open immediately onto the point of Disda. Tries to get set up in that Punisher turret and can do absolutely none of it. However, this teleport behind doesn't seem to be working out for the Red Kites. It's caused some chaos. You get a nice revive coming up from Cats Eat Cat, but just not quite enough damage coming out. The healing is very important, because if Jimmy falls down here, it is a disaster for the Wizards. They need to keep this Punisher alive for all this damage, and all the while, Speedy, this payload's still pushing.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing they were doing. If you did notice off the TP, only 5 did actually originally go through it, which gives the idea that 1 did actually try and play behind and bait a little bit. But then again, there's not much you can really do when, via technicality, the Wizards are running a mounted human turret in the regards with the Rocket Raccoon and the Groot.
I think it's, you know, a very tough point to break, and I like the way that the Red Kites have tried to do it, but they've now find themselves back in that situation, and this is when the healer ults come flying out. See this Punisher turret yet again, just to churn out the damage, right? Oh, that's all this ult is designed to do, is force you to have to keep that healing up as much as you can, and we're seeing it from both sides on a perfectly placed ultimate from Billy Reyes that just takes down 2 people, and you can't survive through that much damage despite the Lunar Snow ult coming out as well. Final Judgment popped, and trying to fight it back, I believe, are the Red Kites here, are the Wizards, trying to turn this one around, but just having to retreat is Hines, because if Hines falls, yeah, that's going to be a massively staggered death, and that payload is creeping very close to its goal.
Yeah, it looks like the map's just going to be taken early here in regards to the Red Kites. They just had so much pressure that just wasn't dealt with by the Wizards properly. The TP baiting, the whole just choke spam, there wasn't really anything that could have been done on behalf of the Wizards here. It was just a very good and well played map by the Red Kites.
Yeah, right on the ball and on the money. We actually get to see there from Billy Hayes, and I'm not too surprised to see it. You know, like Moon Knight, one of the most popular characters in the game right now, specifically since that Ultimate did get buffed, and you saw it in action right there. Right, it drops it, and immediately you see 2 players go down for the Wizards, and unfortunately for them, in this type of matchup when everyone's just been stacking their ultimates up, a 4 versus 6 is always going to go the way of the 6, especially the side with that attacker spawn advantage, right? So a tough one for the Wizards to take early on. They definitely would have liked to have a bit more come out of at least their first showing, right? Would have wanted to get that first point, or at least stall it out to overtime, something like that, make it just that touch closer. But at the moment, a very, very strong performance from the Red Kites.
Yeah, just the other spam and the consistency followed through between abilities, ult economy, and just general gameplay from I believe it was the Red Kites just taking that point.
Yep.
There just wasn't really much that could have been done for the Wizards. Obviously, you had Conchcast running the in-meta tank on behalf of that Doctor Strange, who arguably, in my opinion, kind of single-handedly won that final fight on defense.
Oh, totally.
For the Red Kites, which at the end of the day just shows why that character is so good and why that character is so overpowered. And then there's just not much follow through on regards of the Wizards. I think if the Wizards really want or feel they have a chance of winning this, they need to either figure a meta that works for them, that kind of counteracts what's being ran by those Red Kite players, or they just need to try and up their game, play their strengths even better, and just show that they really want to be here.
Yeah, I would like to call Billy Ray up on that Moon Knight there. That was a pretty short game, right? You would say that was, you didn't even get past first point. And by the way, if it wasn't for the Doctor Strange, we would be watching an entirely different game. Literally only that character manages to hold that point there. But then you see Billy Ray up on the Moon Knight, 15,000 damage, right? Which sounds gigantic for such a short game. But then Jimmy69, their teammate, 18,000 damage on the Punisher. You could see the amount of damage that just gets fired out, and it is literally triple the damage of Dister and Hines. So the DPS there really having a strong showing. It's not just the DPS, obviously, that makes that happen, but I have to call out the DPS players there for the Red Kites. They just did so much. And when we talked about the consistent damage output of a Moon Knight and of a Punisher, and that's just what ended up being too much for the Wizards to handle there. Now, we are, of course, getting set up onto the next map. We will be going over to a convergence map. I believe best way to compare this, Speedy, in Overwatch 2, this would be an assault map, where you have a point that needs to be captured first. Once you do capture that point, turns into a payload push from there. But the most important thing is you have to actually get that first point. And with how that game went, I'd be surprised if we got that much further past there, to be honest.
Well, with this kind of point, it can be a bit different, because obviously you have that first point you have to capture. And in my opinion, personally, in modes like this, it is a lot easier to cap that first point than it is to push the actual payload, because you have that first area you have to capture, you have your time you have to be in there without them contesting. And unlike the payload with this game, you need people on that point for it to capture. It's not going to just capture on its own with nobody on it. So they have to make sure with both sides here that they're playing to their strengths. They're playing to get that damage. They're playing to get the kills from that damage, because anyone can do a bunch of damage in one game. But if they're not killing anything, there's no point in them doing it.
Yeah, totally right. Like you say, it's because we now have that different style of objective, right? That first capture point. You can't really do what the Wizards fell to just now, right? That Red Kites play of putting the portal behind and keeping one person just to push that payload. It distracted for a very long time, broke you through that choke point, but that ain't gonna fly this time around, right? It doesn't work on this type of capture point map. So definitely expecting to see another choke point that has to be broken, right? Another way around it. And I do wonder if you maybe look at some of the bans too, because while we did see, we saw the Storm banned out, which is understandable because it's top of the meta. We saw the Bruce Banner banned out, which is not quite on the meta at the moment. It definitely didn't look like it would have made much of a difference in that last game. So I do wonder if maybe we even see the Doctor Strange banned out by the Wizards, right? It didn't seem like they were too willing to play it. So maybe just taking that character, such a strong, versatile character, off the board, maybe that would be the best play for the Wizards to make here.
Yeah, obviously, we've seen the Doctor Strange just getting that value from Conchcast. If the Wizards really want to try and base off their bans, they had 2 bans they could have used, but only actually exploited the one, if you actually look back on that last map, where they only banned the Storm. I think if they want to really get the value that they can and try and counteract this Red Kites team, they need to take Conchcast out of his comfort, just try and prevent him from getting that Strange value like he did at the end of that defensive round. And then obviously take the Storm ban. It's not a bad ban, it's a good ban. It stops just the general damage, the flying nuisance, and just allows teams just to get that value they want.
Yeah, I think you're totally right, because if you like you say, take Conchcast off of that comfort of the Doctor Strange, especially when you saw that the Wizards were more than willing to play the Captain America, to play the Thor as well, these generally to be considered weaker Vanguard characters, they were still happy to play them, and they actually had success on it, right? The push that was successful for the Wizards came from the Cap with the charge, right? With the full assault coming through, when there was a Thor nearby that I'm pretty sure was very close to having that ultimate ready, which would have cleared some space, would have definitely made it more difficult for the Doctor Strange ult to get the value that it would have had. Of course, Thor in that God of Thunder ultimate, completely immune to any form of crowd control, so definitely would have been able to at least disrupt that big portal play coming through. So I would love to see a Doctor Strange ban, and you probably do still have to ban out the Storm, but even if there's a Lunar Snow still on the table or Cloak and Dagger still on the table, everybody's healers got these in their pocket, right? I'm sure we'll be able to not see much of a difference even if those characters are still in the game. So yeah, definitely would like to see a bit of a shake up there.
Yeah, obviously, bans are a big part of what this match is going to be. Like, who you ban, what you play around, how those bans go. The only thing that you really want to think about in necessity to this is, if Strange gets banned, can the Red Kites counteract? Are they flexible enough to play the other meta tank in regards to the Magneto, just to play for that disruption? Still has the shield, can still hold that space, and still does pretty decent damage with the option for an ultimate shutout with his ultimate himself, because obviously you have the Punisher ultimate that Magneto can just full on stop as it eats the projectiles, and you have the other ultimates to follow on from it that it can also shut out and gains more damage per shot that it actually absorbs. So at the end of the day, we're going to see what we can get going from here. But what it does look like at the start is that the Red Kites are defending and are looking to ban the Hulk at the start, with the Wizards banning Strange like we assumed.
Yeah, I had a feeling they didn't seem comfortable, and Conchcast seemed absolutely more than comfortable. So no shocks there. Bruce Banner being off the table sort of rules out the Iron Man pick as well. This does free up some space, but I would expect a Storm ban here. And yeah, I've seen Storm and likely Cloak and Dagger. That doesn't shock me. Cloak and Dagger, one of the easier support characters to play, and play it very well, right? There's just so much potential in the Cloak and Dagger pick. Has that group invulnerability, that ultimate, which is just absurd with how long it lasts and how much can be done with it. So I'm not surprised to see that go off the table, especially if you feel like you're the better team, right? Red Kites after that first game will be feeling more confident, so they want to keep the higher skill ceiling characters open, right? You want to keep them available and force the other team to ban things that they would benefit from as well, because even if you don't really like Doctor Strange, it'd be nice to have a portal sometimes, especially when you are struggling. But yeah, off the table is that Strange this time, and the Storm. We are seeing the Wizards attacking first. Again, that might have been their choice, and I'm a little bit surprised at that, especially with the way that these maps can sometimes go, especially if you have a particularly rough start. But excited to see how the Wizards decide to attack this, because this is one of the most difficult choke points to break, and one of the most difficult points to capture as well.
Well, it's a difficult choke point to push through. Break, I don't know so much about. I've seen some pretty interesting cases where people are just dropping the choke point on their enemies' heads. But it looks like the Groot is just being a nuisance here and completely walling off the spawn door on behalf of Conchcast. And he's just full retrieved as soon as he does, and manages to get back to the choke in time for his team support. And we do see the choke being broken, ready to be dropped on someone's head, like I said at the start.
They're going to go for it, so the Wizards looking for this push. I like the choice of a Groot here. Does manage to make this choke point even more choky. But of course, the Wizards have made it to this flank, which is where you would expect them to go. It's definitely easier to attack this point from here, but it does make it so it's a little bit more difficult to regroup if you do happen to have a cheap pick put up against you. Definitely a change up, though, in the compositions coming out. Actually seeing a Black Panther get up from distance. A fantastic group of walls there. Manages to cut off the Thor there. Dodd, though, dashing away, gets to some safety. A looped all the way around this point of the Wizards, but they do still need to get the Red Kites off of it.
Yeah, they do need to try and take the push. It's all good and well to try and get these rotates off and manage to take the high ground. But if you're not going to do anything with it or do anything about the point, it doesn't matter. So at the end of the day, this game is a point-based game, not a kill-based game, and they have to try and utilize that fact.
Really trying to lock into this cage, this Thor, but it's very hard to do that accurately enough. But finally, someone does go down, but it is Billy Ray up right now, trading right back, though gets the revive as well. So great start now for the Red Kites on this defense, and yes, starting to really pull away in this fight, and just like that, chase out the Wizards from their base. Everyone builds up the ults, everyone drops the ults, and this time around the Red Kites come out on top.
Yeah, like I said in the last, at the end of the last game, obviously ult economy can be a big thing with this game. Obviously, the Red Kites using 3 ultimates going into that fight, whereas there were none used at all on behalf of the Wizards. So the only way that we can really think about this now is how well will the Red Kites adjust to this high just ultimate count in comparison to that of what they have.
Transformation comes through. Fate of both worlds used by one Loki. Attempted to be used by the other Loki as well. Just holding for as long as they can. And yes, decides to pop it. So double Lunar Snow ultimate coming up from Red Kite. Certainly wouldn't have liked to stack it, but that might be enough just to keep this point safe. There's 3 Lunar Snows dancing right now. So nobody is going down. But now with that cleared, we see the final judgment coming out from the Punisher here. Hines got it ready. Got it firing in pocket. We see the God of Thunder coming out as well. The invisibility blockade right on the point there, perfectly placed from Nate Dogg, and that's a lot of damage coming out now. Finding the space are the Wizards. They've got the strangling prison on point 2, and that should be enough what they need. No, just falling down is Conchcast there. Can't hold the point, can the Red Kites, and it looks like the Wizards going to get this first point and begin their push.
To be honest, that was a really good push on behalf of the Wizards. Like I said, having that many ultimates just in their back pocket in comparison to what the Red Kites had. But I think that Conchcast, we do see the switch coming to the Magneto now. Like I said, obviously coming with the second meta tank. Was that Groot ult a bit of a waste at the end though? Could he have utilized it? Maybe coming into the second point as it comes to the payload instead of switching so early.
It's a tough call, right? Because Groot definitely a lot weaker on this second phase of the map rather than that first phase. But like you say, that strangling prison, especially when a lot of the ultimates have been expended from the Wizards, definitely might have been an opportunity there. But chose instead to just switch straight to the Magneto. Unfortunately, did use that ultimate, though, so definitely have to wait a while before that Meteor M back online. And used there on the Fate of Two Worlds forces the ultimates to come out from the Red Kites as well in defense, but that doesn't seem to be stopping them. Getting a real head of steam built up now, and you see Dodge here just swinging away with this hammer. Thor, great counter into Magneto, can just smack right through that shield, does not care. And the Wizards, after what was a difficult first phase, turning this second phase into a really, really strong one. And no, cats eat cats. Invisibility is right in front of enemy territory. And now it's going to be a very tough hold in a 6 versus 5.
Yeah, it's just a really tough area to hold here. Obviously, like I said before, capping that first point is where most of the difficulty does come from, this first point. And we do hear all of the ultimates just coming out here. The Magneto ult missing from Conchcast though.
Hit the bridge, and doesn't manage to connect with anyone. Great God of Thunder coming out. We actually see 2 ultimates coming out. This is the secondary Magneto ult. Still doesn't kill anyone off. You need that ultimate to find value on a support. But for the Red Kites, they have managed to stall that push. Very close to that point under the bridge, getting taken there, but just about managing to hold it. I just worry about their ult economy now. It is 3-3 at the moment, but the charge coming just that bit faster for the Wizards.
Yeah, the only thing is, coming into this, we do have actually better ultimates coming out now on behalf of the Red Kites. Obviously, you have your Invisibility Girl ult, you have your Lunar Snow, and then there's also Jimmy with the Star-Lord ult, which just does obnoxious damage for the type of ultimate that it is.
It definitely is the case, and actually only the one ultimate coming out from the big cheese for the Wizards to counter that. That's a lot of damage coming out there from the hand of Conchu. You hear that legendary Star-Lord ultimate flying out, trying to put out the damage, but it's not going to be enough through the Lunar Snow ult, but you are forced to commit that. So the fight's stalemated for a moment, but as soon as that damage comes out, we do see another Lunar Snow ult coming out from the Loki of Unzo right now. Again, just trying to chain this heal to keep these fights going, build the rest of the ultimate charge, because we're going to have an invisibility blockade coming out right on the point. Again, another chained heal coming out, everyone fighting, but there is a Lunar Snow ult on the side from Hinzi for the Red Kites now, so this fight is everyone flaking in health, but there's the Magneto ult perfectly placed by Conchcast, a triple kill, make that 4 for the whole team, and a complete wipe now for the Red Kites. The Wizards did what they could, forced out another Lunar Snow ult, but that is just enough. Jimmy popping the ult twice in that fight there. Wow, what a hold from the Red Kites.
Yeah, that was a really good hold coming into that final fight. Obviously, Conchcast probably wanted to make up for that first Strange ult where he kind of got a bit diffed by a bridge, but we're not going to talk too much about that. Obviously, got the second one off, still didn't find the kills that he wanted. Did manage to actually force out Nate Dogg in regards to hitting the direct on the invisibility girl. But then coming back with that third ultimate, just doing that damage, getting those kills, allowing his team to just do what they want to the rest of the Wizards. And obviously now coming into this, can they try and keep that momentum going into their attack?
Yeah, the Wizards have opted to go for the Magneto on defense rather than this Groot. And I do worry for the Magneto, especially with the way that this point goes, because there's some quite complex geometry, right, around the point with all these buildings, all these different high ground positions that you can take up. And Magneto really excels at a very specific mid-range, you know? You can't detonate his regular attacks. They only detonate after a certain distance. And I've got a little bit of concern for Dodds, especially with the way that the Magneto ultimate works as well. That Meteor does fantastic damage, but in a circle downwards, and fighting up into high ground could be particularly difficult. So it does seem like the Wizards are choosing to defend from the high ground instead. An interesting strategy. Let's see how the Red Kites choose to attack it.
Well, the only problem with how they're holding here is just the Red Kites are allowed to just walk through pretty much, because unless they're holding that main primary choke, there's still so much natural cover that can't be broken, that can just be full utilized on behalf of the Red Kites here. So we're going to have to see how well the Wizards can adapt and whether or not they can move to spots where they can get this value.
Pretty decent damage coming out from Hines, but equally returned right back onto them. You do see that the Red Kites have progressed through that choke point, and Billy Ray up, diffed by the opposing Moon Knight there. That's going to be an issue now. They won't be building up that ultimate, won't have the same kind of damage output. See the bit of a Magneto scrap in the center of the map, but this is exactly that kind of distance where Magneto shines. The Red Kites not choosing to go for these high ground angles, and almost falling down there was Conchcast, but good play from the supports. Manages to keep them up for enough time, but got very, very close there. You see Magneto trying to fight this back. The Soul Resurgence popped immediately by Cats Eat Cats, wasting no time. The Red Kites, you see them diving in on top of the big cheese. No Lunar Snow ultimate for this fight now, and this is where the Magneto starts falling down, but they have that Mantis ultimate of their own, that Soul Resurgence coming in from the Loki pickup. Loki proving massively valuable. Here comes the Meteor, charged up, but blocked out, destroyed by Jimmy69 there with that Star-Lord ultimate. So attempting to cancel the ult, ends up punishing themselves, but Cats Eat Cats in danger. Fantastic sleep there. Will lock Dodds down for so much time. The point starting to be capped. The fight, though, being turned around finally by the Wizards. Billy Ray up with a great ultimate as well. We're at a stalemate on the point.
Yeah, it's just constant spamming, constant force, and we hear the second Loki ult now coming out, following on from the Lunar Snow ultimate. We're just going to have to see how well these teams can actually cope and adapt now to what's going on, because it's just utter ultimate spam coming out now No teams having anything left in their back pocket. Only thing coming up now will be Billy's Lunar ult, Lunar ult coming up now.
Pushing straight onto the point is Dodds, gets the Magneto there and gets the heals coming in to support. Almost capped the point there. Did Red Kites, but didn't quite get enough. But they finally now seem to be breaking it open. Not quite enough fuel left in the tank like you mentioned, but they're going to hold for as long as you can. Another hand of Khonshu, but there's the fate of both worlds. Trying to keep him alive and does manage it, but they're off the point. There's one on the point. They are surely only going to hold for a matter of seconds right now. Billy Ray up doing whatever damage they can. But the counter Moon Knight ult onto the point. Conchcast goes up and goes right back down with the Meteor. Just firing out is Hines, putting out the damage. We hear another Star-Lord ult going off. Jimmy finds an angle, gets 2 picks, and gets the point for the Red Kites.
Yeah, that's just a really well-played fight there on behalf of the Red Kites. Obviously, you see Conchcast's ult getting burned out. Everyone just looking at Conchcast, giving Jimmy that kind of value that he wants. Just to walk through and just do that damage with his Star-Lord ult, just bursting out all he can, killing all he can, and ultimately just winning the point for those Red Kites players.
I believe that we did see Vivo and the Loki use a Lunar Snow ultimate. Not sure they'd already committed to the Trickster God ultimate, and that might be why they just chose to do that. But you're seeing Conchcast now trying to get some angles in, find some combat early to just allow this payload to push. And you see the supercharger forced out by Nate Dogg. The Seer comes out and the Seer gone just that quickly. Hand of Khonshu comes out but doesn't find anyone just yet. We do see a Meteor M comes out, doesn't find any kills that it's looking for. I worry for the Wizards now, burning several key ultimates, and that's just going to mean that the Red Kites are going to have the momentum when they need it.
Yeah, obviously, the only thing coming into this now is, though, both teams do have that Lunar Snowball at their disposal, but the Wizards do also have the Loki and the Punisher to follow through with it. So we're going to have to see how well this team can adjust. Vivo getting caught out as well. 5v6 and the Loki ult and Lunar ult coming out. How well are these teams going to manage to play off of this as well now?
Wizards not willing to wait. Pop the Loki ult, turn into that Lunar Snow and get on a charge, but they don't get any picks for it. So definitely going to have to be careful, maybe recognizing that they had the double Lunar Snow ult. And yes, Heinz does fall down. Here comes the Meteor M, built up, nothing to stop them this time, but can't connect with anyone that they needed to. The final judgment comes out right away from Heinz in response. Going to melt through the health bars here of the Red Kites, who are forced to run all the way back to spawn. They do have a minute left in the tank, but only 2 ultimates ready. It's going to be a race to the finish.
Very unfortunate there as well for Billy. Don't know if you noticed, but he did kind of get stuck on the dumpster there, trying to get out, trying to prevent a stagger. And Cat's getting caught out early by the Punisher on behalf of Heinz.
Oh, it's very close. Actually, switching to the Venom here, coming out from Conchcast, but just falls down. Venom not having the same survivability that you need. The fate of 2 worlds, managing to keep everyone alive through Jimmy's ultimate. Unfortunate there. That's another ult expended. 30 seconds on the clock for Red Kites. They need to get this next push cooking.
Yeah, it's just going to be utterly just based off of the ults coming out here. Obviously, you see the Red Kites having 4 at their disposal. 1 building,
nice kill.
But only 1 actually available here on behalf of the Wizards. With the Loki getting killed early by the Moon Knight as well. How are they going to be able to cope and cover from this? Loki will be coming back from spawn, but Wizards having no ultimates actually available to use.
Ultimate's going absolutely flying, but Big Cheese taken out by Cat. Healer on healer action there, taking them out. Now we're seeing another angle coming up high. We see another Loki ult coming out, attempting to keep this point alive, but the Red Kites seem to be doing it. They're getting a really good push here. Conchcast getting some kills. Billy Ray up, taking some down as well. It is just the Rocky Raccoon left on point. They've had to retreat, had to back away. 1 player still on point. You see the Loki lurking behind, but it has now gone down. You're having to commit the healers to the point just to keep it alive, but did so with a fantastic ultimate. Oh my goodness, takes out all 6 of the Red Kites in 1 big swing and wins the game for the team. Fantastic there. Oh my goodness, right down to the wire.
Obviously, we said at the end of the last map, these players just having that single solo carry chances. You saw it there coming out from Dizda. 6 kills in one ultimate, one play. All he needed was to come back, wins the map single-handedly on behalf of the red kites there. Or even the Wizards. Just a huge performance there coming out there. Well performed and well executed.
Yeah, it really needed that, the Wizards, I think, just for the momentum of the set, right? This is a first to 3. You really don't want to go down 0-2. And winning it in the way that they did as well, they really took some fight. They played their own game. You know, it wasn't that just standard meta picks coming out. Like I said, the Magneto on defense on that first point, I did question it. It looked pretty strong, though. Definitely felt like they were much more comfortable without that Doctor Strange in game, not having to worry about the portals, not having to worry about the Eye of Agamotto coming out. And just the way that Dista managed to find some very big ultimates, didn't quite do as much damage as Billy Ray up on the opposing Moon Knight. Moon Knight just kind of does a hell of a lot of damage, though. But still, having the key moments. So you see from Dista, right? So Dista doing 18,000 damage to Billy Rayup's 27,000 damage, which is fantastic, again, for Billy Rayup. But Dista finds 18 final hits, with only 10 final hits coming from Billy Rayup, right? That's just a little bit of a difference in the effective damage coming out. So Billy Rayup still doing that job, but Dista in particular doing exactly what was required when needed. And we're going to be heading to the King of the Hill map next, and we're just going to keep rolling. Nobody can win the whole set off of this, but it's always going to be better to find yourself at 2-1 up than 2-1 down.
Obviously, I did mention at the end of the last map the empty damage that can be just not very useful towards your teams.
That's right.
Obviously, you see it there from Billy Ray getting his 27,000 damage, whereas Dista having like 10,000 damage less. But all Billy's doing, if he hasn't got the kills for it, he's just giving ult charge to those healing players on behalf of the Wizards, which is just allowing that constant, the Lunar Snow ults to come out, the low-key ults, the rocket ults, and it's just not enough for the Red Kites to be able to cover it if they're not finishing.
Like you said, there was always that Lunar Snow ult available. You know, how many times did we see a very well-timed invisibility barrier coming up, right? Like exactly when it was needed. And I think when you are picking a Moon Knight who, like we've said, does a lot of damage but does fuel up ult charge on the other side. You know, you look at the healing numbers coming out from the Wizards. You got 23,000 for Unzo, nice round number, well done. Then you got 23,000 again, not quite as round, from Nate Dogg, and then 24,000 coming up from the Big Cheese. Right, it's so much healing that each one of those players has matched up to Billy Rayup's damage output still, and that just comes from, you see when all the ults go flying, you see all these huge circles of just nobody's going to die, but everyone's going to build some ult charge and some damage. It's got to be so chaotic to actually take part in, but the players have managed it so far. Let's see how they continue to manage it. So we will be heading over to a domination map coming out here. And how do you find it, Speedy, especially coming from an Overwatch 2 background and everything, when you are up against teams that when you come up against a team you played against and you feel like you're relatively evenly matched, you get into one of these King of the Hill matches, how are you feeling? Are you feeling confident? Do you feel like you want to really rock it, or do you just feel like King of the Hill, when it's not your day, maybe it's one of the harder game modes to play?
Well, in my opinion, King of the Hill is just always going to be based off what teams can hold that pressure, hold that space, just get the value that they need to be getting. If one team is getting the heals, the healing ults out, followed by the other who's only getting the DPS ults out, the team with the healer ults is going to do a lot better in regards, just because those DPS ults aren't going to do anything in countersuit. So basically, whichever team is just going to run this map better is going to be the team which is going to pull out the whole thing.
So, obviously, a mechanic for Marvel Rivals, which I believe is separate to Overwatch 2. I'm not sure if they've changed it since I haven't been paying attention. But in Marvel Rivals, when it's a best of 3 on these King of the Hill maps. When you finish a round, you do retain your ultimate charge. Do you think there's any value in not exactly throwing the first map, but when you realize that the first map is not quite going your way, do you think you just save up a bank of ult charge and just hold it for the next round, or do you think that's maybe a little bit naive and a little bit too ambitious?
Well, if you think the first map's never really going in your favor, you don't really want to just completely go, all right, we're not winning this map, let's just play for the next one. You're always going to want to play to take that point. Anything can happen going into these games. Obviously, like we saw it at the end of that second map, we didn't expect the Wizards to actually pull anything off, as we saw so many of them just getting picked off early.
Yep.
We obviously saw the Rocket get in the touch, and then Dizda does just come back and kill 6. So with games like this, anything can go any way. And at the end of the day, you should never, well, unless it's 99-99 and there's not really much you can necessarily do, I would say save your ults. However, cases like that, you never really want to just play for ultimates on the next point, because it can always be taken back off you and you've used your ults for nothing.
Yeah, like you say, you don't want to give up anything cheaply, because the points are so valuable, right? You know, you can't, especially with these sets being relatively long. You know, we are already 2 games in, but we still got plenty to go. You know, at least 2 matches or two games, I should say, from this point on. So definitely need to be concerned for, you know, giving up anything early, because if you go down 2-1, like I mentioned in this game, you're gonna have to pull back 2 back-to-back matches, and that's very tough to do. You know, especially when, again, the games can fluctuate so quickly. You know, that we were right on the brink for Red Kites being 2-0 up in this set, right? If anyone hasn't, you know, got much experience with Marvel Rivals, I cannot overstate how close that was. If Dizda doesn't do exactly what they did and get a 6-man wipe there, I think we're looking at a Red Kites 2-0 very, very soon, because when you get these staggered respawns coming in, it's very hard to hold a point that is that far close. But we see both supports diving on the point, getting that touch, which it is a last-ditch effort, right? That is literally what you do when you say, the only way we possibly win is if we have an extra second in the game. And turns out an extra second was all that the Wizards needed to pull that one back. So yes, I would expect to see these teams fight for literally every last inch, every last percentage, because if you go down here, it's only going to be that much more difficult. And the pressure feels much worse, right? When you know that if you don't get a certain percentage of your way through your capture point, if you don't get to a certain point, you are done for the day, you know? And especially if you find yourself in Group A, which these teams are, if you lose 2 matches, you're out for the season. You know, you're going to have to wait for the next one. And nobody wants to go out in the group stage.
Yeah, true. I've had my fair share of getting knocked out of the group stage in these tournaments, plenty myself. But obviously, it's not the best feeling in the world. And being on the side of the groups, where obviously you do have to at least win one of your games, it's a lot of pressure to hold on your back. But it just seems like overall, the Red Kites just aren't really letting it bother them in regards. It just looks like they're just constantly holding this upwards momentum and just constantly counteracting the Wizards. I know it's never good to say that there's the possible chance of luck in regards to Dizda at the end of that point there on the second map. But at the end of the day, what's the idea you can really say so much about how skilled it was?
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong, you know, because there is a certain naivety coming out from the Red Kites that to have all 6 players stood on the point. You know, you knew there was a Moon Knight on the enemy team. You have to be aware of that. And you certainly didn't need 6 players. You know, you could have definitely pushed your advantage further ahead. But when the games have been as chaotic as they have been, I am sure the communications have got to be so difficult, right? You see in these situations where there's 4 dancing lunar snows going around the place. You're trying to stagger your healing ultimates, but you also need to make sure that you're keeping several players alive. I can't imagine how complicated the comms are, but that is when you start getting mistakes, and little mistakes can give opportunities to players like Dizda to really punish you. But yeah, and again, we do see, I believe, the exact same bans as we saw last time out. Doctor Strange and Storm banned out by the Wizards. Of course, Bruce Banner and Cloak and Dagger banned out by the Red Kites. No choice of attack or defense this time around. Both sides just looking to attack the same large square or circle. And I'm excited to see how this one goes. A much different style of game mode, of course, to the other 2 game modes we've seen so far. And, you know, we've seen a lot of fighting around points or on objectives, using the objectives. But now it's all about who can hold the space that little bit better.
Well, obviously, holding space is going to be the key factor here, which does kind of surprise me in the fact that we do see the Venom coming out here and the Thor. Honestly, if you'd expect people to be holding space, you'd be expecting those shield heroes, those heroes who just prevent space push, your Magnetos, possibly your Captain Americas. Instead, we kind of see what could be classed as a kind of like a full dive push coming out on
Oh, yeah.
behalf of the Red Kites here.
Yeah, Red Kite's really switching up, bringing a Namor into the fray just to have that more consistent damage output. But similarly, Heinz on the Wizards, who has been their top damage dealer so far, pricking up the Hawkeye as well, which Thor is really going to suffer into. You know, Thor can't really do a whole lot when he's got arrows sticking out of his head. But you see Jimmy there wanting to get an early burst of damage through Unzo's clone, taken out nice and early, and looks like a big high flank, all aiming straight for the high ground. Are the Wizards. Jimmy goes up to meet them, thinks a little bit better of that pretty quickly, but both sides are taking differing strategies here. Heinz picking up the first kill of the game. Point might be available for the Wizards, but they might just wait for something more to develop.
Yeah, obviously Heinz getting that first pick can come out. It can be huge, but nothing else really being followed on as Conchcast does get caught off guard and picked off early, leaving the Red Kites without that tanking pressure. Now, will the Wizards be able to just clean up afterwards, as we do see Vivo also falling?
Yeah, starting to find those little picks, get a real staggered set of respawns coming out, and now the point is yours, right? If you get into these sort of stalemate fights with the Lunar Snow ults on both sides, but you're fighting on the point, you can keep this point and it will continue to tick up whether or not you are winning the fight or not. So definitely major advantage right now for the Wizards, and the Red Kites are going to have to find a way to break this. Certainly can't afford to give up any cheap picks again, so looking to take this low ground, but of course the map development coming into play here, shifting out of place. Conchcast finds themselves really isolated on the point. A lot of healing coming out, a lot of damage fired back the other side as well, and now we do see the first Lunar Snow ult coming out there, but Cat's taking out Dister again on the Moon Knight, blows up the enemy team. Despite a decent start for the Red Kites, are going to have to give this one up for the time being.
Obviously, like I said at the start, having that shield pressure on behalf of Dodds is just so much better than running into it with the Thor that is actually being ran by the Red Kites with Conchcast here. It's just the Magneto is just so much better for holding that space, stopping the pushes, and just utterly denying the opportunities which the Red Kites are just trying to exploit.
Well, now the high ground being taken by the Wizards here, basically challenging the Red Kites to try and pull them at it. Nice freeze coming out there. We hear the Loki ults go flying. There's more Lunar Snow ults coming out. We do hear a God of Thunder coming down from the sky. A lot of space control. Namor ult there, right onto the point. Doesn't really connect with anyone, but Dodds is down. The Magneto is out. Heinz similarly so taken out. So a lot of space now going the way of the Red Kites. You do see Legendary being shouted out loud by Jimmy here. The space control absolutely in favor of Red Kites now. They do retake that point and get a bunch of kills to back them up. Nice retake there from the Red Kites.
Yeah, obviously really good push. Only problem is, like I said coming in before, the amount of ultimates just used there on behalf of the Red Kites, only leaving that Lunar Snow ult in comparison to that Hawkeye ult and that Magneto ult coming in now. Hawkeye's ult is just so easy to exploit, especially with the boosted damage he does get for hitting people that his crosshair is on and not people who are walking into his arrows.
So I'm wondering now if you utilize that Lunar Snow ult for something as small as a Hawkeye ultimate. Conchcast going very deep all by themselves for the moment, but does manage to get a bit of backup coming through. And look at this charge up to the high ground. The Meteor M right up in the face of the enemy team. Does take down Cats Eat Cat, but Dodds now isolated, cut off, being chased back up to the high ground, but that's where their healers are. Backing them up. Conchcast trying to put out whatever damage they can on this Thor, but they find themselves isolated. Billy Ray up though with that turret from that octopus, pushing out the damage, doing what they needed to do. This point is being stalled, but like I mentioned, that benefits the Red Kites. They currently hold the point. They are gaining it. The recap now coming out from the Wizards. Red Kites don't have a lot of time to work with. They have to get this point now.
The only problem coming in here as well is Invisible Girl cannot contest that point while she's invisible. And we see the Lunar Snow ult coming out here with the Moon Knight ult as well.
There it goes.
But people are just crumbling.
Yeah, burned down there. Unfortunately, Heinze did whatever they could to stall, but just not enough time. And yeah, unfortunately for Lunar Snow, while you do provide that much healing and that much basically invulnerability while you're in that ultimate, as soon as it ends, you are a complete sitting duck. So the Wizards effectively taking the lead in this set as they find themselves 1-0 up in this 1-1 tied set. Speedy, I gotta say, after the way that the first game went, I really didn't see the Wizards pulling it back like this, but credit to them. They've done fantastically since that first map.
Obviously, I said before about how Conchcast does have that carry potential with the Strange, and how flexibility can be a very good thing with this game. However, since Strange has just been banned every time now, it just seems like the tank value isn't really coming out on behalf of the Red Kites anymore. He just seems to be struggling to really do too much to help his team.
Yeah, I think you're right. Definitely seems more at home on the Doctor Strange than anything else. Whereas Dodds on this Magneto has been strong all throughout. Was happy to pick it, has been happy to pick other picks such as the Captain America, but does just seem happy enough right now on this Magneto. Like you said, it does feel like you're just at home on this character right now. But we do see a couple of ults in the pocket of both teams, 2 ults each. But most importantly, it's the double support ultimates for the Wizards right now. Unless they get picked off cheaply, they are not going down. You see them taking this high ground advantage again. Conchcast goes in to do what they can. Fantastic use of the ultimate, but Lunar Snow cares not. Takes him down from the sky. Doesn't matter. The Namor ult comes flying up to the high ground too. But the point has already been capped by the Red Kites. They got the advantage of this fight so far.
Yeah, a lot of people tend to look at games, those that can end 3-1, those that can end 3-0 or whatever, but it doesn't really emphasize how close some games can be. As we can actually see here, this game has just been so back and forth, that the Red Kites punish one fight, and the Wizards will just come back and punish another. It just seems like this is one of the most evenly matched games we're probably going to get today.
Massively evenly matched, but this point so far being heavily in favor of the Red Kites. Did not care enough for the way that they were using the high ground there, the Wizards. And unfortunately, I think the distraction of Conchcast with the Thor ult, the reaction was pretty good, but it did leave that point way open, and that just meant that Red Kites stand on it. They're not the ones looking to control the high ground, and when the fight goes relatively evenly, it only benefits the team that has already got the point. Now 50% already in the tank for Red Kites. We are seeing a lot of damage from Heinz coming out on this Hawkeye onto the Thor. I mentioned that's a potential weakness of this Red Kites composition, but right now they seem to be handling it quite well.
Yeah, obviously we see the map shifting around as well, which can add strengths to nice strengths whatsoever. But we do see the 4 ult coming out here. Can we possibly see a big ultimate from 4 to counteract that thing?
Oh,
and he gets booped off the map.
Booped off the map. I'm not even sure what that was. I think that might have been an Invisible Woman push from Nate Dogg that just taken them out, and had another large weakness of Thor exposed there. But they still have the point. Do the Red Kites? They've got what they need. The Meteor M didn't get enough done. Heinz has fallen right after Dista manages to respawn. They're doing a good job of retaining this point, trying to take the fight to them. Right back on the scene is Conchcast on this Thor, and a perfectly placed turret now being set up. You see the Thor ultimate coming through, looking to dunk down if they can. The hand of Conchu from Dista again, finding a pick, but just the one pick, and immediately matched back out. The invisible barricade now set up right on top of the point from Nate Dogg. Trying to fight into it is Jimmy, but goes down themselves. Conchcast still swinging. We see Heinze there on the fate of both worlds, trying to scrap this one out. Still the point in favor of the Red Kites. They are still holding it, and there's no gain from the Wizards here. They just have to stay alive on this point. Very low was Conchcast, but still alive, is swinging this hammer right into the back of Magneto's head. Who can stand it no longer? A bit of a kill lead now on the map for the Red Kites. They need to convert this into the rest of the kills going down. Chased out from the point is Nate Dogg. Heinz goes down. Red Kites take a 1-1 matchup. Tied set yet again.
Yeah, just a huge performance here on behalf of the Red Kites. Obviously, I said before about having that flexibility and all. Conchcast just constantly asserting pressure, forcing the sights on him, allowing his team to just punishing the backline where they're not actually being looked at. It's just going to be a whole game now by the looks of it, based off of awareness and how people can adjust.
Yeah, I think we've found the type of tank that Conchcast likes to play. You like to be active and like to constantly output damage. Now, switching it up from the Thor to the Groot might seem like a more defensive option, but Groot actually one of the more proactive tanks, in my opinion. You know, you need to be constantly aware of where you're placing your walls, who you can isolate, and who you can trap off. And I do really like the choice of Groot on this map. You know, you do tend to find that the mobility of the way that the map changes on the previous stage is a bit difficult for Groot to handle. But right here, big square in the middle, and the walls are fantastic. Let's see how they get set up.
Yeah, it looks like they're just looking to play for a full high ground push around here, exploiting that natural cover, trying to avoid what they can, whether it be unnecessary damage or just try and get easy picks off the sides. Whereas you then have the Red Kites who are just counteracting the Wizards, holding their space, holding their pressure, and not allowing any pushes at all.
Behind, switching it up to the Winter Soldier here from that Hawkeye. Wants to find those targets they can isolate and execute and take them down. Similarly, we've seen Dodds on the Venom this time around. Wants to have some more impact there. Conchcast does go down, but does get revived pretty quickly. But Dizter getting another chunk of damage off. But here comes the final judgment. Look at that time. Perfect angle. But the invisibility barricade really good. But they know where the targets are. They just got to fire some bullets into it. Supercharger comes out. Infinite ammo for the Punisher. Fate of both worlds. Counted out. And the point gets captured by the Wizards. Looks like the Red Kite stepped up for a second. Dizter again getting another ultimate. But a fantastic strangling prison. Unfortunately, can't do enough. The health bar is so low. And finally, they start falling down. Can you isolate the Invisible Woman? Yes, Conchcast can. The healing comes out, but it's not going to be enough. There is another Fate of Both Worlds, a Lunar Snowelt of their own for the Red Kites. They just need to whittle down these final few health bars. The Namor ult will guarantee that the Venom goes down. Point immediately retaken. Advantage Red Kites.
Huge plays going off there. Obviously, we've seen both sides coming out with the Lunar Snow ultimates. One coming from the Loki, one coming from the Lunar Snow. The only thing coming up here now is the Wizards do still have another Lunar Snow ult, with the Red Kites not actually having the Loki to try and counteract with a copy. How would you reckon they're going to be able to recover with this?
Oh, great pull coming in. I'm not sure. They're going to have to try to at least stall it for Conchcast to get back. Groot very slow, but get isolated themselves by Hines there on the Winter Soldier, pulling them into danger. And look at that. They just had to vacate the point. Don't even get to fight it. The chain bounces coming out from Diz to there. Take down cats, eat cats. And unfortunately for the Red Kites, they lost their Groot, who stepped just a touch too far forward. And now they've been made to pay. Took that point without committing that many ultimates. So now, advantage to the Wizards, advantage in the ult economy to the Wizards as well. It's going to be a tough one for the Red Kites to fight through, but they're going to have to try.
I don't know so much though here. We do obviously have the 4 ults coming out on behalf of the Wizards, but there is also the 4 ults coming up with the Red Kites as well.
Oh, no.
And Moonlight finding 2. Huge play from Diz there. Just catching out Jimmy and Vivo. Just allowing his team to push through as we see Conchcast getting punished. And the follow through from Hines.
Dizter there has been absolutely on point with these ultimates. You notice the Wizards didn't use an ultimate point, and the only ultimate they used to stop that push from the Red Kites was that Dizter ultimate there. The Hand of Konzu coming in perfectly. Great pluck there, right onto the Lunar Snow. Unfortunately for the Wizards, not able to take them out. But here come the ultimates all flying. The Strangling Prison is fantastic, but still not good enough. Holding on to that Hydra's impact is Hines right now, because they know they've got the support from their team. The invisibility barricade there, causing a lot of havoc for the Red Kites to push into, but they do manage to get onto the site. The drop in the walls from the Groot, another nice pull onto Conchcast, but can't blow up the target. Too much healing coming out. Fate of Both Worlds yet again. Here comes the Hydra's impact. Gets one, goes again, gets a second. Hines up and down and obliterating the Red Kite side. Charges forward. There's just one member left alive on the point, trying to hold it for what they can is Vivo, but it's not gonna be enough. Wizards go up in this set, 2-1.
Yeah, just huge ultimate economy going through there. Obviously, like you said, the Wizards only using, in fact, not using any ultimates at all, just to take that point off of the the Red Kites there. Conchcast maybe getting caught out a bit too overly aggressive. We do see Dizda coming out with the MVP again. It looks like Dizda's just that one man carry holding on behalf of the Wizards here.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, or I believe it was Billy Ray up on the Moon Knight who got MVP in game number 1 as well. So maybe Moon Knight's a little bit good, guys. We might need to consider banning this character out. You know, you've seen the Wizards recognized very early on they needed to take the Doctor Strange away from Conchcasts. But then, aside from that, you know, the Red Kites have been quite confident in, you know, they're banning Cloak and Dagger and they're banning Bruce Banner. They seem happy there, but with the performance that Dizda has had now on this Moon Knight, absolutely saved the game on map number 2 for the Wizards, but didn't even have to save the game on that previous map because he just did so well, so consistent, and every ultimate was hitting. I believe, you know, cast 4 or 5 ultimates that game. I'd be shocked if any of them didn't kill more than one target, right? And if you get one kill with your ultimate as a DPS, that's already value, right? Any more than one just wins you the fight so quickly. And yeah, Dizda, absolute menace on this Moon Knight. If you're asking me, the Red Kites need to find a way to stop him.
Yeah, they just need to try and play off of their bans. Obviously, we see the Storm bans coming out, we see the Strange bans coming out, but then we only see the Cloak and Dagger and the Banner bans coming out from the Red Kites. It looks like they're not really banning against the Wizard strengths, whereas the Wizards are against the Red Kite strengths. So it just looks like the Red Kites need to follow suit, even if it may seem as somewhat a scabby play. They just need to try and stop the Wizard strengths and allow themselves to kind of have a chance coming into this game now.
Yeah, you see how, you know, these maps work, right? We've already done a full cycle of the game modes. We're going back around to a payload map. And the thing about Moon Knight is they're good on payload maps too, right? It's not like it will be all right, it'll be a payload map next. No, we've already seen Moon Knight on both sides on that first payload map. We will be switching to the other payload map this time around, which will be, I believe, Tokyo 2099. It's Spider Islands, I think, we'll be heading to next. But it's something that I really think the Red Kites need to consider, right? You can ban meta, you can ban what feels bad for you, right? And ban your weaknesses out. But when someone is just playing so well on a pick, you almost have to force them to pick something else, right? We've seen Dizda on these last 2 games just go on the Moon Knight and stick to it. I think they did swap around a little on the first game, maybe hadn't quite warmed up yet, but now, you know, we've had proof that Dizda can play this pick. In my opinion, if you're the Red Kites, you have to prove that, okay, all right, we know you can play Moon Knight, but we don't know that you can play Bruce Banner. We don't know that you can play Cloak and Dagger. Realistically, they probably can play Cloak and Dagger. Pretty simple hero to play. And if you can play it to a very high standard, probably one of the best characters in the game, if not the best support in the game right now. But Bruce Banner in particular, relatively difficult to fit into a composition because not only do you have to pick the Bruce Banner, you're also then almost forced to pick the Iron Man. It's such good value that the Iron Man has to be there. So the Bruce Banner ban is not a Bruce Banner ban, it's more of an Iron Man ban. But you know, we haven't seen yet if Dizda or Hines can play this Iron Man. I think you have to be willing to let them through, force them to prove that they can play it, because right now, I only see this next game going one way, and it ends in a Dizda huge Moon Knight ultimate and a win for the Wizards.
Yeah, I can't lie, I'm going to see this the same way. They're just not punishing that Moon Knight. They're not banning against the Wizard's strengths. And it's just constantly going one way every fight when this Moon Knight is left alive. Obviously, it is a team-based game, and I'm never normally the one to say there's the carry potential and that. But Dizda is kind of just wandering in on this Moon Knight, keeping the Wizards on his back. Man is going to need a really good chiropractor coming up after this game.
Possibly so. We'll see if the Red Kites opt to take our advice, or if we're going to have to see another performance from Dizda. Because there is always the question of, can they sustain this, right? Hitting the huge ultimates, you know, we've seen it hit pretty frequently now from Dizda, but that doesn't mean that you can't respond, right? You can't react and maybe pick something different. We haven't seen a lot of mobility coming out from the DPS players of the Red Kites. You know, it ended that game with the Punisher and the Namor, which I think they played for almost the entirety of the map pool. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they picked for that entire domination matchup. And you still have options, right? You can still switch to the Black Panther, your Psylocke, your Spider-Man, if you're really feeling it. Generally, these characters you see on the lower end of tier lists and whatnot. But these are the characters that are built to kill off characters such as Moon Knight, right? Moon Knight doesn't have a lot in the way of defensive tools to actually protect themselves. So definitely, options, even if the Red Kites do not opt to ban the Moon Knight. But it's a lot simpler for them if they just ban the Moon Knight out. So we've discussed it. We'll have to wait to see if that is how we come around to it. Like I said, we will be heading back to a payload map, and it will be match point for the Wizards here. All they have to do is take one more map, whereas for the side of the Red Kites, they are going to have to take a whole other map on top of that. But I don't know. I think, is it as simple, Speedy, as just banning out the Moon Knight and leaving it at that? Would you be discussing anything else if you were Red Kite's team captain in this situation?
Well, personally, I'd mainly be looking just at what the Wizards are really exploiting, how they're exploiting it, and what we really need to do. Obviously, when looking at the the size of the two teams in comparison, just based off of what we know, one of those teams I would assume does have a coach in here helping them go through it, and I believe that is the half of the Wizards, which obviously is helping a lot more in regards to how that first map went. We saw ContraCast coming out with that Strange at the start of the game overall, just dominating the Strange on the first. And since Strange has been banned, the Red Kites just haven't done anything. They've had that 1 point going into map 3. But other than that, there's not really been much to idolize in regards to what they're doing. They need to try and learn and adapt to how the Wizards are really playing and how they're going to actually punish the Wizards for any mistakes they're making, or play off of their tank strengths, the person who's playing for their space, which we have seen possibly overextend a few times and get caught out a couple in matching suit. So we need to try and see a bit more of adaptability and just general sustain coming out from the Red Kites, and maybe not the constant press of the W key.
And I have noticed as well, just in the way that both teams have approached the games, you tend to see from the side of the Red Kites, they get to the point, they get set up what they want to do, and then they look for where the Wizards are. Whereas the Wizards have been opting to take the high ground at every option, right? Find the flank, get set up as a group somewhere high up, like you mentioned earlier, using that natural cover and seeing if they can utilize that to work in their favor. Whereas the Red Kites just seem happy to just push their buttons better, right? And to be fair, it hasn't held them back too much. They've been very much in these games, but the actual tactical knowledge and tactical play style has been definitely more suited towards the Wizards so far. They've definitely been the ones to come in with the more interesting strategies. You even saw that almost strange attempt at attacking on the first Convergence map, where they looped all the way around, went all the way up on the high ground. Yes, it didn't work that time, but they're willing to try, willing to make these play attempts, whereas the Red Kites, like I said, just seem to be really hoping on the back of their damage plays. We've seen Jimmy and Billy Ray up put up massive damage numbers every game, so that's there. But then when you've got so much of the enemy team that's 6v6, like you said, you can't rely on just two players to carry you through it. You need to have that bit of extra thought process coming in and actually thinking of how you're going to take your team fights, your extended engagements. We've seen some massively extended engagements, by the way, where we're seeing 3, 4, sometimes even 5 lunar snow ultimates, and throughout all that time nobody is really going to be going down. But I'd expect to see a bit more of that coming through, a bit more of these extended fights, like I said. And if we are having these extended fights, I would probably put my money on the team that has just been a bit more organized. And for now, that seems to be the Wizards, but we have to give Red Kites the opportunity. Maybe they can show us something different in this next map.
Yeah, maybe they can try and pull something a bit back. We saw that they can play. We know they can play the game, and we know that they can function. Obviously, looking at game 1, they came into that with so much just domination, controlling the payload, stopping the pushes, and allowing themselves to just full on just hold it and push it. But then coming on after that, it seems like they've just got a bit too big for their boots and have somewhat come into it expecting to win every map with ease now, and they've been punished for it every single time following on.
All right, so definitely a change-up coming through. We're seeing a substitute coming in. So we're just going to wait to get all the players set up back in lobby and get this going. So I will go for a little bit of a break, but don't go anywhere because there's still match point, but there's still plenty more Marvel Rivals to be played. So hopefully, see you again really, really soon. All right, I promised a short break, and short break is all you shall get because the players are back and the players are ready to get going. So we will get to find out who has been subbed in here and if it will be a big changer. But like we mentioned, it's a payload map. It is match point for the Wizards. They only have to win this one. And I do wonder if they would choose to attack or defend here. We've already discussed that defense feels to us to be the better place to start, but the Wizards seem quite happy to start on attack.
Yeah, like I said before, obviously, starting the attack is a little bit more difficult when it comes in regards to the defense. However, we saw what the Red Kites were able to actually do last time, coming into the defending on payload maps. So will they actually be able to just exploit and do what they did last time, draw this game out to possibly a 3-2, or will the Wizards just hold this domination they've held since map 2 and just keep pushing and pushing and just denying what they can?
And momentum is a big thing in hero shooters like this, right? Because when you feel like you're hitting all your shots that you need, you've got those big ultimates in your pocket, you don't really feel the nerves when you have to fire off those ultimates, right? We've seen Dizdra on this Moon Knight hit consecutively great Moon Knight ults. And when every Moon Knight ult you hit is good, the next time you see an opportunity, you go, I'm just going to go for that because I've been hitting my buttons, right? And the team clearly had some faith, right? We actually saw in the end of that map number 3, Dizdra just steps forward, drops an ult on 2 people, and the rest of the Wizards not reacting to that as, oh, there's a fight starting, I should pop my ult too. They react to it as, all right, fight's done. I'm going to back up. I'm going to reset. I'm going to hold my ultimate for this last big fight. It's exactly what they did, and it's exactly what got them the big win. So definitely excited to see what these two teams shape up against each other. I do believe we will be heading into game right about now. Apologies, everyone, for the delays between games. It's obviously a new game for us here. We're still getting used to the issues with the Marvel Rivals lobby setup, but hopefully we'll get everything under control soon. And I do believe we are ready to keep going and everything. And, you know, it's a new game. We've got all this excitement from it. The players are clearly still working things out for themselves. You're working out what works and what doesn't work. And like I said, I've been talking about it non-stop for this entire interval. I'm really interested to see how the Red Kites opt to pick here. Now, given the fact that they're hovering the Iron Man, I feel like they're not going to go for the Bruce Banner ban. And it's a low-key ban coming out instead.
Followed with a strange ban as well. So it does look like they are just playing to force out Conchcast's solo carry potential. And it looks like possibly there's the Moon Knight ban that we did call would be coming. Just playing to stop Dizda playing. And now they're also going to be coming out with the Storm ban as well, as has been going on the whole time. So it just looks like they're going to be playing to prevent Dizda, whereas the other is going to be playing to prevent Conchcast. How do you reckon this game is going to go now with these bans coming out?
And all of a sudden, we're in a much more interesting situation, right? We have the Cloak and Dagger available on the table, and I would expect both teams to pick this up, especially with no Loki available. But we've seen Unso on the Loki do so well that I'm not too surprised to see that ban coming out. I hadn't considered it before. I've been too focused on the Dizda ban, but yeah, Dizda banned off of that Moon Knight. Now forced to see how they can do on this Iron Man, right? I mentioned it. They're forced into the Bruce Banner pick. Both sides going for a Bruce Banner. We're actually seeing a Penny Parker coming out from Conchcast here. A fantastic choice to defend in general. But one of Penny Parker's weaker maps, at least in my opinion. Maybe everyone else disagrees, but let's see exactly how they opt to shake this up. But yeah, an Iron Man for both. We are actually going back to the original payload map, by the way. I wasn't sure if we were forced to run it on a different map, but no, it has been selected. We will be going back to Tokyo in 2099 and seeing how this shakes up. But yeah, really excited to see how this goes, because having the double tank setup now on the side of Red Kites will be a lot different. No Groot on the table, and Wizards with just a Bruce Banner. Not a regular tank, especially to push through a choke point like this. There's a lot resting on the back of Dizter and Hines right now.
Yeah, that is true. Although what we do see coming out in Countersuit, Conchcast getting two with the explosives on the door. That is so unfortunate for the Wizards.
Look, that is like effectively meaningless. It gave Conchcast some ult charge, but Penny Parker ult, not the most impactful ult. But the mental damage that Conchcast has just done there, like, all right, you banned out my Doctor Strange, time to deal with my Penny Parker. And let's see how they manage it here. And this is where we see the damage coming out from Dizter on the Iron Man, but taken down by Conchcast again. A third kill of this game already on the back of this Penny Parker. So where is this pick? Why haven't we been seeing it until now? Is performing so strongly on it. So great start for the Red Kites. They just need to keep it rolling.
Yeah, obviously he's doing so well in comparison to how he was playing in those past maps. It may just be a case of Conchcast is a payload one trick, but it looks like he's just utterly punishing with these Penny Parker mines with the shots that he's landing, even if he is occasionally shooting his own teammates every now and then more than him, more than the enemy.
Real different set of lineups coming through here. I thought I just saw Jeff the Shark healing coming out. I'm not sure what that was, but definitely some experimentation going on. We do see that spider sweeper now in the pocket for Conchcast, and yeah, pops it immediately, goes straight for it, already gets another kill, but does end up getting isolated. Now, as much as the Wizards have lost that fight, they do have the attacker's advantage here on the respawn, but there's plenty of pools of healing from Cats there, oh sorry, from Billy Ray up on that point. Now I'm wondering how the Wizards opt to push into this, but they've got some space without Conchcast available.
Yeah, that is so true. Although we do also see the Hulk coming out here, getting beamed out by the Iron Man, and Vivo just falling in time. Valorian finding Countersuit, finding the pick here on Nate Dogg, and maybe it's going to be a game of which Iron Man can kill everything else.
Yeah, Valerian coming on into this team and, well, showing what they can do on this Iron Man. Maybe that was a bit of a pocket substitution there. Like, let's bring in our Iron Man player and have him gun it down. Doing quite well so far for the Red Kites. They've still got this great defense going on. 1.5 minutes on the clock for the Wizards, and they need to find a way to burst through it. It's just not quite working, but they've got a lot of ults in the pocket.
Yeah, that is so true, as we do hear the Lunar Snow ult coming out, forcing that healing, but the Hela ult, or the Hela right click also coming out, just blowing up, murking everyone coming in, as we also see Vivo's Hulk ult coming out, and Dista missing his Iron Man ult, not being able to really help too much. Seems like since he's come off of this Moon Knight, he's not really getting so much of the value he needs, and as soon as I say it, kills the Hulk.
And not quite as much value, but definitely did the damage needed to allow Dodds to sweep up. And a good push again coming out from the Wizards. They still haven't reached the point that they had last time, and Valerian getting the advantage over Distro on this Iron Man. Definitely have the stronger Iron Man pick so far, or at least handling it a bit better on defense. Now, 37 seconds on the clock for the Wizards to get set back up. They are regrouping, still have 2 ultimates in pocket, but only the 2 ultimates in pocket. And the Hinds on this Hela not going to have the same sort of impact into that Billy Way up ultimate with that Devotion coming out. So now we're seeing another Iron Man fight in the sky, the dogfight over Tokyo, brawling it out, but who's going to come out on top?
Well, we do see this Iron Man ult here coming up. If possibly, we can see Valorian getting the big Iron Man ult to come out, and Vivo finding Dista. We do also now see the Cloak and Dagger ults coming out. Everyone's using ultimates. The Penny Parker comes. All that's left is the Iron Man and the Hela ult. Who will be able to punish more? Will Hines be able to just save this point for his team? And Unzo does find one. And then Dot's finding Billy as well. C9 coming out though.
Need to touch.
C9.
Oh, they need to touch, and they can't touch. They were winning the fight with the Wizards, but they didn't get the touch on the point. Hela in the sky, Iron Man in the sky, nobody on the ground. And unfortunately for the Wizards, it's actually a worse push out than they had previously into the Red Kites. So the Red Kites are certainly going to feel happy with that.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said before, these guys did so well on the last time they played on the payload map that they're just so... It's probably one of their best maps in regards to strengths. Obviously, we've seen them come into this. We've seen them hold them on the first time. Coming on to the second time now with this, and they hold again. The only thing is, can the Wizards hold even better?
That's true, right? You know, when you have, again, this payload style map, you only have to hold it further back than what you manage. But we're seeing Conchcast now switching up to the Captain America, really getting the chance to flex their hero pool, right? We did see plenty of Thor coming out previously, and Thor not typically favored on this map, especially as a solo tank, but with the Hulk on the table, especially with Valorian performing so well on that Iron Man so far, you know, your best representation of how well you're doing, of course, is how you do into the opposing Iron Man directly. And I just worry a bit for the Wizards here, taking a little bit of time to select their composition. I'm wondering if they're going to get to the choke point in time. You see them still only getting up to where they pushed the payload to. So an early start for the Red Kites, but they still need to keep it rolling through that choke point.
Yeah, it seems they're holding pretty far back in comparison to how the other teams are holding. However, we do see Dista coming out with the Strange here, possibly playing for the shields with a Hulk Magneto combo. How can they be able to play through this?
They're definitely going to be a lot different. In fact, there's a double tank composition coming out. Nate Dogg under a little bit of pressure, but stays alive. Conchcats gets caught, punched down by Dodds there with those little Hulk hands of his. And, you know, a pretty simple push so far, pretty much what you would expect. But there's the Iron Man damage coming out. Dista having to stay alive as best they can. And actually, the Wizards opting to completely negate or completely avoid picking up that Iron Man so far. So still using the Bruce Banner despite not having that. Jimmy with a different pick here on the Psylocke. Not quite getting the stealth aspect coming through. And there's a de-transformation there, forced out by Dodds. But everyone's still wanting to fight. Vivo there having to force all the way back. You see a pulse coming all the way through and does enough damage to Dist, who does fall down on this Magneto. Very slow, very low mobility for that Magneto. Means it's going to be a really rough 5 versus 6 here for the Wizards to deal with.
Yeah, we do see Conchcast coming up now as well, and we do see the different ultimates just coming out here, seeing who can do what.
So much
DeLorean
damage.
also just coming up, holding all this damage, while Vivo and Conchcast control the front line. However, Nate Dogg just controlling the back line in comparison. It is a 4v4. How can the Wizards actually
tank
deal
fight
with this?
We've got 4 tanks on the point, no one else to deal with them, but unfortunately for the Wizards, they're just not able to get the sustain that they need to come back through. Dizda just gets smashed into the ground with that World Breaker. There's a Gamma Prison on the point as well. Dizda's held this point for as long as they possibly can, but unfortunately for Dodds there, they are going to fall down. You see Conchcast diving now onto the back line. That's what you want your Captain America to do, create so much space. The payload pushes through easily, and we go to a game number 5 between the Wizards and the Red Kites. What a set to start off Marvel Rivals for Well 7.
Yeah, like you said, it's just a huge play on there on behalf of Conchcast. We see him pulling out these MVPs coming up in these payload maps. It just seems like he is made for this mode. 14 and 3, not really dying much, but doing the damage and getting the kills that he needs. 7 final hits, just doing all that's possibly done by a tank, diving, killing, whatever's needed to be done.
Yeah, much different style of game, that one, to the ones that we've been seeing. And you see that in the choices of DPS coming out, right? No Moon Knight or Punisher really to speak of. We did see Big Cheese opting to pick that up towards the end, but Hines picking up the Namor didn't really get to have much impact with it. Of course, Dista switching to a tank for most of that game. And on the Magneto, you can't quite pull off the same style that you can as a Moon Knight. Of course, has that huge single ultimate, but I don't think we actually got to see a Magneto ultimate in that. If it did appear, was somewhat lost in the chaos, unfortunately, and it didn't manage to have that same sort of impact. Interesting though to see Dodds on the Bruce Banner, despite there not being an Iron Man on side, right? Normally that's a combination that works really well together. That's almost why Bruce Banner has been so popular lately, but unfortunately they just weren't confident in their own Iron Man, and now I've got some fear for them because they're going to have to look to ban out. They surely have to keep banning out the Strange, but now do you ban out the Bruce Banner yourself? Now that the enemy team's not going to be banning out because you still got that Storm to worry about. It's a tough spot now that the Wizards find themselves in. They built up all of this momentum, got themselves to match point, but now the momentum feels like it's flipped massively against them.
Yeah, obviously, losing a map like that can really have a big play on anybody's mental, especially if you lose it in that kind of fashion where you've been somewhat steamrolling with your Moon Knight characters and so on and so forth, and then the Moon Knight gets banned and you've just been somewhat steamrolled coming into the defense and coming into the attack. So it just looks like here the Wizards are going to have to learn to adapt to not being able to play that, and are now going to have to try to play off any other strengths they may have. They have a big player roster, even if it means just making a little substitution where they may need.
Definitely need to find something, right? Like, it's not... and maybe it's just payload specific, right? Maybe it's just that map specific. That is a very good Iron Man map, of course, because you have tons of extra cover in the air, lots of very high ground that not a lot of DPS characters can actually easily scale, and certainly the tank characters will struggle to reach you up there. So maybe it's just that map that the Wizards seem to struggle on. But, you've got to fear when there is a strong Iron Man on the enemy team, and you have to really think about who you are going to be banning out. I do wonder if they ban out possibly the Iron Man and the Storm, something like that. That does bring Doctor Strange back on the table. We saw Conchcast there do very well on that Captain America. So tons of questions to be asked. I can't wait to see how these bans go in this final game, because we've really seen an evolution of the picks and bans throughout this set, right? You very often get in, long sets like this, almost their individual metas, right? Like a meta for this specific set. And we've seen some variation. We're now starting to see players go deeper into that hero pool. Jimmy on the Psylocke there had a great attacking phase on that Psylocke. quietly so. Didn't see too much in the way of, the kill feed blowing up, but did pick up 6 final hits on a pick that is, relatively undervalued at the moment. Not got that same consistent damage output of Moon Knight, the same damage output of Punisher, but finding the opportunities that Psylocke can. And the composition worked really, really well for the Red Kites in that last game. I'd be excited to see if they can pull it off again. And they need to prove to us and to the fans of Esports Wales that they can win on a map that is not payload.
Yeah, they really do. All they've really been doing is just pushing this out, getting the payload wins, but then when it comes to the hybrid points, when it comes to the King of the Hills, they're just not able to really exploit as much as they can. Like, obviously we've seen them win that second point on the last cross, but they didn't really do anything else other than that. And it's just been back and forth, but more in the Wizards' favor than in regards to the Red Kites.
Yeah, if I was Wizards team captain right now, I would be talking about, hey, look, we've only lost on that map. We should have plenty of reason to be confident. I do worry about that Loki ban that came out, because clearly the double Lunar Snow Ult was working very, very well for the Wizards whenever they got the opportunity to do that. So now that they find themselves without that tool and with just the one Lunar Snow in pocket, and having to maybe consider a Iron Man ban, a Bruce Banner ban, leaving Doctor Strange open, and here we go, picks and bans for this final match of this set. No matter what happens, actually, I tell a lie, Speedy. It's not no matter what happens, because we are on convergence, which means there is the potential for a draw. But if we are to get a winner in this game, that will be the winner of the entire set. They couldn't possibly go to a draw, could they? They couldn't possibly give us a 6-game set in the very first matchup for Marvel Rivals on Esports Wales.
Yeah, it would be not the greatest way to end it all. Although having a King of the Hill to end it would be the best way. No possible draws. Whichever team comes on top is who's going to come on top of the whole thing. But we do see the Banner and the Storm bans coming out here on behalf of the Wizards, with the Moon Knight Loki coming from the Red Kites. How do you think they're going to be able to punish now, knowing that Conchcast is allowed back on this Strange?
Back on this Strange, right? But Strange, if there is any map that has a weaker output for Doctor Strange, it's possibly this one, right? At the very first phase, there is a pretty good teleport spot you can get. But aside from that, it's not really Doctor Strange's best map. It's very close quarters, very narrow corridors. And Strange really doesn't like that, He doesn't like being up close and personal against Hulks, against your Venoms and everything. So this isn't really going to be one of those maps, I think, where Conchcast just goes wild. But, Doctor Strange, there's a reason that it's the most picked tank character. Is because it's so reliable, so consistent. I do wonder how much we see of this Penny Parker from Vivo as well. Doesn't seem too confident in where they're going to set up their nest, and that might have cost them a little bit of time and exactly how they're going to place their mines and get themselves set up. But look at the compositions coming out. We do see Dister on this Doctor Strange themselves now for Wizards. So switching off of DPS entirely, it seems, when Moon Knight's not on the table. Conchcast dropping an early portal actually defensively here. Looks like they've locked the spawn doors, I believe, is where that's being used. So Wizards going to have to take this one slow, because if you do lose any members, you're not going to have any respawns coming out.
Yeah, that is true. He's locked off the spawn. No one's going to be able to push out. It's going to be a case of the Wizards are going to need to get these starting kills. They're going to need to get these starting just early fights and try and punish. Seeing Conchcast possibly suffering from it now, dropping to 200 HP, but still holding on strong.
A lot of faith in the healers that they're going to keep them back up. All these mines from the Penny Parker being triggered by the tanks, which is not ideal. It's not exactly how you want to be seeing that come through. But now the push starting to come in. Nate Dogg first to hit 100% on the ultimate, but opts to hold it for just some time. Wizards wanting to get this first push off effectively. There comes the Seer now pushing in. Are the Wizards looking to take this point, looking to fight around the point so far. Valyrian falls down first, and Big Cheese just firing off infinite ammo on that Punisher, of course, combined with the supercharger. Fantastic for them. Jimmy does get a return pick, but just the one pick is not going to be enough. The Wizards make easy work of what could potentially have been a massively difficult choke point to push through, and they're going to continue running it down.
Yeah, like I said at the start, This payload isn't the same as other games. You don't need people standing on it for it to go forward, and it doesn't gain as much speed as you'd really expect. These players can just look to hold forward, just hold this pressure, hold this damage, and just hold it at the sustainable fight, which just allows them to have this space that they're just being gifted by the Red Kites.
Now, you would mention that the Red Kites have managed to build up a lot of ult charge themselves, but the Wizards didn't have to expend too much to get that first point, and now they're just pushing forward. Eye of Agamotto comes out, didn't look like it got any value, but now we're seeing the ults come out in defense from Red Kites. You see that there, the Galactic Legend just burning through everyone. Conchcast picking up the kills. Ditsa trying to do what they can to take down this Star-Lord, but it's just not possible. Only the tank's alive, and now the Red Kites with the opportunity to stagger the respawns coming out, and yes, they do manage to get through the entire enemy team and a staggered respawn as well. Great defense there from the Red Kites.
Great defense, but the only thing they really have to reconsider here, obviously, the Wizards have in 4 minutes just to push for half at this point. A very high time pool in regards to how you think of it. And obviously, they do have these other ults that are coming up now. They have the Bucky, they have the Punisher, and the Venom is coming out, but with the Strange Portal being placed on point, and now being followed on with an Eye of Agamotto and the Rocket ult, as Vivo does get caught out. Both Rockets using ultimates, but only the one getting caught out, with 2 punishing ults coming out now.
This is a really important fight. The winner of this fight will gain a lot of momentum, and Jimmy there getting the last laugh in all of this action. Almost every ultimate expended there that was available, and yeah, Jimmy burns through theirs and is happy about it. It's only Hines with an ult on the map, and now this payload, despite the amount of time, like you'd mentioned, Speedy, that the Wizards do have, they're going to find this progress to be very, very slow. Great pair of defenses there from the Red Kites. Wizards have to regroup.
True, if they don't regroup here, try and force a sustain, we're not going to really get too much done. Obviously, they do have the Cloak and Dagger ult coming up, and they do also have the Bucky ult coming up, but Jimmy just punishing with his infinite ammo and his shotgun, just not getting caught out at all.
That's a great joke there. I love that. The punishing with the shotgun there. Now we are seeing the defensive ultimates come out. Valerian there goes into that Galactic Legend, but not going to find any value from it. The point absolutely covered in sludge from the Cloak and Daggers. And Unzo actually taking out Valerian there. We see Jimmy again with this last Judgment. The final Judgment coming out, putting out so much damage, but everyone just taking cover. Valerian does manage to find the big cheese, and now isolated, completely separated now are the Wizards. Nate Dogg gets the revive. Nice walls coming up to keep Dodds alive, but does manage to continue fighting forward. Big Cheese getting the return kill onto Conchcast. There is the Kraken impact coming up, but Hines doesn't get a single reset. Look at the infinite ammo coming out from Jimmy, just locking on and left clicking, firing away, putting out so much damage, and it's enough to deflect yet another push from the Wizards.
But it does look like the Wizards are pulling out, as they do pull out their own Punisher ult, finding Jimmy, getting caught off. Conchcast has just come back from spawn, but is getting bursted down like there's no tomorrow, getting caught by the group and the Punisher ult at the same time. It is unfortunate, but he does get the revive, and now there's the other Cloak and Dagger ult coming out.
Cloak and Dagger ult absolutely perfectly timed there just to keep that push going. It was just about to run out of steam, but the steam is now flowing freely. Gonna easily push down the second half of this point. They still have a minute on the clock, and I don't see a defense coming in time for the Red Kites. We will be going to a phase 3 here. Our first phase 3 of the day, despite the length of the set. But now, Red Kites, they have to hang on somewhere. They have to choose their moment, choose a point to hang on to, because there's still another 2 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, so true. So much space for them to push, though, is the only thing to consider. And without as much space to just try and push through, massive Eye of Agamotto coming through here from Conchcast, and the ult coming in from Jimmy. And they're just using way too many ults here. And it looks like they're only going to come in holding the Invisible Girl ult. Nothing going to be able to be done anymore.
I think you're quite happy for the Wizards there. Not only did you get all those ultimates, you got the portal coming out from Conchcast as well. That's a 3-minute cooldown. So for the rest of this round, there will be no Dr. Strange on the way. It was a fantastic ultimate, just too much use and response. Oh, Valerian getting picked off. You cannot have that when you just committed so much to the defense. This is a key choke point that the Wizards are just looking to barrel through. The Seer comes out yet again from Nate Dogg, consistent with these rocket ultimates. They're always on the table. Gets a revive on to the Conchcast here on this Doctor Strange. Need to keep those tanks up, but the point is still pushing. Only a minute now on the clock for the Wizards, but anything they get here is just free value. The shotgun rapid fire coming out from Jimmy in response. Oh, tried to pop the ult. In fact, it's actually the other one. The big cheese pops that Punisher ultimate. So many members down, and there's not a lot of space left. You see, pushed back into spawn is Cat Eat Cat, and still Valerian can do nothing despite the switch to the Psylocke, making it all the way to the end of the map of the Wizards. If they were feeling down about that last payload push, Speedy, they should feel massive confidence going into this next round.
Yeah, so true. Such a good push coming out there from behalf of the Wizards. Never expected really anyone to possibly go for a full push here. However, there is now still the chance of a draw, which could be interesting depending on whether or not the Red Kites can just push up, hold this space, take the space, and then allow themselves to push fully. We do see Valorian making a bit of a switch here, maybe coming out on the Hela now, running along with the meta tank line as well for the Red Kites.
A really, really interesting push to come through here. So for anyone who is not clear, the way that we get a draw here is if the Red Kites are also able to push all the way to the final point. It actually doesn't matter how long it takes them. They just have to make it there. Even if it's in overtime, they just have to get to the end. If they do that, we don't go to a full restart where every team has to recapture this first point. For it to be a draw, we will need neither team to get the first third of the circle filled. So if we make it all the way there, that's still like 12 minutes away. We still could have plenty of time left on this set, or the Wizards can win this set here and now. We are seeing again this portal used to scout out the enemy team, call out the push coming through. They even look for a little bit of a trap here. I'm not sure where that other portal is, but they might look for an opportunity here. Ditsa here, we're watching them size this one up. You have to worry if you're using too much time here because you are not gaining ult charge through this. Opts to pop the ultimate. Pop the portal. Nobody falling for it, all going through. Doesn't end up netting anyone. Interesting tactic. Doesn't come off this time.
Yeah, that is so true. Just holding our portal is just wasting time. Sure, you can get the early scout, but in my opinion, he should just end it early once he knows what they're running and where they're pushing from. He's just waited way too long there and has kind of forced himself out of a fight where the rest of his team is building so much more ult charge.
Well, now the ult charge is flying from both teams. Dodds does fall, but Dodds does get revived by Nate Dogg there. So definitely nothing lost just yet, but with that not available now, there is the invisible barricade going down. A great spot for it too, because they can now choose where the engagement comes through. Onto the point goes Cats Eat Cats, and now the ultimate coming out as well from Jimmy, just firing off, and that's starting to open the doors here. Really firing through are both teams, but it looks like the Wizards are giving this one up. No, in fact, they do commit the Rocket Raccoon ultimate as well. Does take down Jimmy, does Nate Dogg, and holding this for a little bit longer than they maybe would have been expecting to. Surely about to fall, and yes, they will go down. Have they held it for long enough, though, for this point to be contested again? The Red Kite's safe. The Wizards going to go for it. They're thinking about it. They're close to it. Ditster trying to get in. You see the Penny Parker on point, and yes, they will make it to the point. They do get the touch, and they do get that Spider Sweeper on the point, throwing down the nets, putting out some damage, but they need to buy time for their healers to catch up. The healers are here. The point is almost capped. Aya Agamotto comes out, hits 4 people, but doesn't find the kills just after only the 1, and Conchcast falls. The Wizards, by the skin of their teeth, have held this point.
Such an exceptional fight there coming out from the Wizards. Obviously didn't really expect them to manage to get back in time, but they just managed to. Dotsa coming out with the Penny Parker ult, which just holds so much momentum in space and kind of restricts the Red Kites from actually being able to push anything.
Oh, Portal behind. Oh, Paul behind, right on the head of Nate Dogg, who falls immediately to Jimmy on this Punisher. It's a 5 versus 6 for the control of this point, which they don't even need to capture the whole thing. You see the Hella ult coming down as well. Jimmy is just firing off on this Punisher, and this will be too much for the Wizards to handle. But they did take off a significant amount of time. Only 3.5 minutes now for this next push. That's almost a full minute less than what the Wizards had, and Wizards have in pocket, and it looks like the Red Kites expended almost everything there to finish that point off.
Yeah, as you can see, all that the Wizards really have coming up here, they obviously have the Strange, they have the Bucky, and they also have the Cloak and Dagger ult here. Whereas the only thing close on the Red Kites is Vivo's ultimate here, which is at 93. But will it really be able to do anything in comparison?
Well, the Wizards need to select where they want to hold their choke point. They've chosen this staircase, which is a horrible angle for the Red Kites to fight into, especially with this Venom. Can't use the space that Venom needs to really get their damage off consistently, not close enough. Another great hook coming through. Venom a little bit better at escaping the danger, so it does manage to escape for now, but that just bought a lot of space now for them to use. So still trying to push on are the Red Kites, trying to break this choke point, but not managing quite yet. We do see an Eye of Agamotto in pocket for Dista now, so if the push does come through for the Red Kites, need to be very aware of that CC control. The invisible barricade coming down. You see Jimmy burst from it, rapid fire with that shotgun still. Dista still trying to control this space, but with no committed push from the Red Kites. The Wizards are more than happy to hold this point. Eye of Agamotto comes out on the backside. There's the supercharger out as well, but the Penny Packerel will stall. There's a huge Eye of Agamotto coming out from Dista. Massive damage coming out. A huge explosion completely shutting down the push from the Red Kites. It looked so good and ends so badly.
Such a good ultimate usage there. Obviously, we've seen the one ultimate coming out on behalf of the Red Kites here with the Eye of Agamotto, but just nothing really left there for the Red Kites, whereas we do see the Bucky ult actually ready just for the push of the Red Kites. Will the Wizards be able to hold on to this, hold this momentum, and win their game of the series?
Oh, well, the Wizards only have to hold it now. Red Kites with their lives on the line in this set. And they still have another game to play today. You certainly don't want to go into that having already lost. Now, we've seen Dista having a good performance on this Doctor Strange. Hasn't done too well on the tank since switching off of that Moon Knight, but seems to be right at home here. Now, we do see the first Cloak and Dagger ult coming out into that invisibility barricade. And the big cheese is off the table. Has the revive coming through, though. Dista forced to retreat. All of the Wizards forced to retreat, but you don't have to hold them here. You just have to hold them out from the base. Now, we did see the Dance of the Butterfly coming out there. A lot of damage being output, and it looks like this might just be the breaking point that the Red Kites needed. They've made their way through this point. They will be going to phase number 3, but they're going to have to sit real tight on this payload. I'm not sure that's how you use that portal, unfortunately.
Very interesting playoff here, but only a minute 50 left. They managed to get the cap, but they were just too late to block the touch from the Wizards, and now they're just looking to try and hold off a sustain, soul out what they can with the Strange Shield on point. But either way, takes off a good 20 seconds and is a good hold when you think of it in any form.
Yeah, the Wizards certainly didn't need to commit that far forward, but they chose to there. They have a minute and a half on the clock, do the Red Kites, so they just want to push this in. It doesn't matter if they make it to overtime, don't forget. They can keep as long as they need, but obviously the faster they do it, the happier they will be. Now, I do wonder how the Wizards opt to defend. They do have a lot of ultimates in pocket. They're probably waiting for this timer to tick down, but they need to bet. They can't wait too long. You know, there comes the Red Kites in. Massive Eye of Agamotto yet again. again, but responded to perfectly. Unzo takes them down. That's Doctor Strange off the table. And now we see that Spider Sweeper coming on through, looking to fight everyone, popping the ultimates now. We see on the point, you see a cloak and dagger all the way on the enemy backline, but has enough sustain to stay alive despite being a look how far away isolated Unzo is and doesn't seem to care. The Wizards have control of the point. The Red Kite's forced to retreat. Now, there's a supercharger coming out. We did see a cloak and dagger out from Vivo there, trying to hold that point, but isolated themselves. Commits too far forward. We see Conchcast there now in deep, diving in. Is Billy Ray up? Needs to make something happen, but they don't have the sustain. Hines hooks them away from their team. Everyone getting isolated one by one for the Red Kites. Coming in is that Kraken impact from Hines as well, who is having a fantastic game on DPS. The Wizards got off to a bad start in this set, but they have turned it around. They have held on, and they will win this first set. Oh, hold on to the point. A touch from Secrecy, and this is the very last stand of the Red Kites. It is now or it is never, but the damage is just too much again. Isolated members from the Red Kites. They've got the ultimate from Jimmy. Can they get a touch alongside it? They can get a touch, but they cannot keep anyone alive. Finally, the Wizards manage it. The Red Kites, they put up a fantastic fight, but they don't make it to the end.
Yeah, obviously incredible play coming in from both teams there. Didn't expect really too much coming from behalf of the Wizards with that block of the Moon Knight play. However, there's the managing to adjust and pull out the Doctor Strange in there. Just Cheese following through with the damage, and Hines as well. So much kill potential. 36-9 from the Big Cheese here. And just so much utter domination coming into that final objective. Such a well-placed map, in my opinion.
Yeah, really, really well played from both teams there, honestly. It was a real showing of what Marvel Rivals can be. You know, how close those fights were and how different the matches were, right? The different maps definitely made a big difference. But at the end of the day, or at least the end of the match, it was 3-2 to Wizards. We will be continuing on. We will have another game to show. Yeah, that's right. It might be late, but we are going. We are rocking it here. And we're going to have another game to show you just after this. But Speedy, any final thoughts on that match? Anything to sum it up?
Honestly, I really kind of hope that both of these teams do end up going through to the next round, because if we can get a final where the teams are both playing like that, I think we'd have a really good way to watch the end of this and how it can go. Both teams played extraordinarily well. Obviously, you have Conchcast running on that Strange, doing so much he can for his team. You have Dizda running around with the Moon Knight from the start, forcing the ban in the end, which did kind of sustain on the one map, but didn't really do too much to follow on from after that. And then obviously you have Hines running around getting kills, Cheese getting kills, Valorian getting kills, Vivo with the healing, and Unzo with the healing as well. It's just such a well-played team from both sides. Hopefully we can get more from them coming on, going later into this tournament.
Well, the standard has been set so far by these first two teams. Let's see if any more teams in the Welsh Esports League can live up to it. We're going for a short break. We'll be back later with another game. All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It is the second game of the evening. Yes, if you can believe it, despite that banger of a first set, we are going to attempt to one-up it and have another showing. You still got Judas, you still got Speedy here. And Speedy, obviously, that was our first showing of Marvel Rivals in Welsh Esports League for Season 7. How do you think it went?
Firstly, it was a really good game. The whole time it was just back-to-back. Nothing really that could be done between either team. They win one fight, lose the next, win one fight, lose the next. It was just a whole, like, probably one of the most even-sided games I've seen in a long time on any game, to be honest.
Yep.
However, I believe we still have the Red Kites going into this one again now, don't we?
That's
so
right.
It should be the Red Kites playing up against the Pit Ponies. What can you really say you'd expect to see from this game?
I think we get to see what Red Kites have learned from their match against the Wizard, and then we get to see what the Pit Ponies have to bring to the table that the Red Kites maybe didn't see from the Wizards. It's going to be interesting to see exactly what level the Red Kites are at, right? We thought it was a very even matchup against the Wizards, but if this is particularly uneven one way or the other, then it should give us an idea of how the matchup between the Pit Ponies and the Wizards will go. We have got our different pick and ban style this time. It will be team leader based, which means I believe we get our secured picks. How do you think this is going to change things up compared to what we saw the first time around?
Well, to be honest, seeing it based off of the one person probably makes it a bit easier, because instead of the whole team having to pick their vote, you just have that one person that just clicks, okay, confirm. Gets it done a lot quicker, gets stuff started a lot nicer and easier for everyone. Although it does look like there is a safety placed on Punisher and Cloak and Dagger.
Interesting that the Punisher is what's chosen here. Now, Jimmy did do fantastically well. Probably the most consistent player for the Red Kites last time around, and it was on the Punisher all the time. So not too surprised to see it there. But I am a bit surprised that we see that over maybe the Bruce Banner when we had seen so much potential. And our Captain America ban coming out from the Red Kites. That is incredibly shocking. But funnily enough, Speedy, if you look at the Pit Ponies pre-picked draft, they have already selected the Captain America. So they were looking to play it, but it is now off the table.
The right heroes could make all the difference.
Oh, we've got a Storm. A Storm makes it through. Storm picked up. And with Loki off the table as well, so we're not going to be seeing those double Storm ultimates. Just the one will be bad enough. Luna Snow
Just so
available, but not being picked up here by either team so far. The team's valuing, obviously, the Cloak and Dagger, like I mentioned previously, probably the strongest support character in the game right now. And it looks like the rest of the Red Kites to pick up that Invisible Woman instead. So a completely different meta switch-up to what we saw earlier, but somewhat fearfully for the Pit Pony, Speedy. We're seeing the Red Kites on the only map they've picked up a win so far. Can they make it a three-peat?
Different teams, actually, different team compositions being seen in here. Obviously, Conchcast not on the Strange. Oh, as soon as I said it. Conchcast back on the Strange.
The tried and true pick,
the Storm coming out now. The Storm from both sides is going to be an interesting pick overall in the end.
Yeah, I've seen Greg for the Pit Ponies picking up the Thor early on. Again, not the style I've expected to see, especially on this map. Surprised to see no Groot, like you mentioned before, no Magneto, who has typically been that tried and true wall character. And it seems like the Pit Ponies opting to just sit back and defend for a potential portal push, maybe a potential Storm flank, or even an Iron Man. And there is the portal. They were expecting it. They were seeing it immediately. You see, diving in is Greg, trying to do whatever they can. They break that roof as quickly as they can to isolate the Thor and the enemy team, and they have completely shut down that attempted push from the Red Kites.
Yeah, just so much damage. I think we can try and see now why Storm is banned as often as she is. There's so much spam just going out there. Not really much that anyone can do into that.
so much spam and also the damage increase in an area around her as well. You see it now put onto both the tanks, so the front line going to be outputting a massive amount of damage. Despite the messiness of that start for the Red Kites, it still hasn't really stalled their push at all. They've made it through this first choke point relatively unscathed. The health bars are getting a little bit low on these tanks, but similarly so on the other side. We're actually seeing the first Storm ultimate come on out for I Am Noob here. You see it there, the Gamma Tornado just swinging, outputting massive amounts of damage. It's just too hard to heal through. This gives the door open for the rest of the Pit Ponies to charge through and push the Red Kites all the way into their spawn. But Leonia might have actually overextended just a touch, though does manage to make it back to the relative safety, and Red Kites on their favored map now have a bit of a mountain to climb.
Yeah, exceptional pushes coming out here in regards to the Pit Ponies. Just massive damage, massive spam, just doing so much.
Now we do see the Red Kites with a lot of ultimates charged in the pocket. Preemptively, we see the Cloak and Dagger ults come out from both sides, ready for this fight that is inevitable. But at the moment, it's the Red Kites taking the brunt of all of the damage. You see a lot of ultimates charged up now by the Pit Ponies. A diving Eye of Agamotto doesn't find the value that was needed there. And unfortunately, that is an ultimate that is a very important teamfight tool off the table now for the Red Kites.
Yeah, it's just massive plays after massive plays coming in here. Obviously, we've seen the ultimate spam coming out, the Storm ult coming early. We see the ult coming out as well from Leon. Looking just for these plays. Ayabakumoto comes out, Leon does fine too. But there's a chance that, yep, there he goes. Greg does get caught out for a bit of an overextend.
Having to push back through this choke point are the Red Kites. The Pit Ponies have done a pretty good job defending, but I think the Red Kites will be happy with how that fight went, especially with that attacker's respawn advantage there. Leon having to back all the way up. We're seeing another Storm ult coming through, this time from the side of the Pit Ponies, but it's not going to do a lot in that invisibility barricade. Now we're seeing Jimmy pops the ultimate, the Final Judgment comes out, the damage output is massive, and Valerian takes down Leon like that. That's how you can see this Storm damage really coming into effect. You're seeing a flanking Storm around one side. See God of Thunder comes out from the Thor, but Greg not able to find enough value with that Storm on Storm combat here as the Pit Ponies are starting to take control of this matchup. We're seeing a forced retreat now to come out from Conch Cats, trying to do whatever they can, but they're just being stalled. Staying alive though, and might actually make it back to their team. No, does eventually fall down. Greg on this Thor having a huge impact so far, and just being able to do whatever they want.
Yeah, it's just at the damage output, to be honest, going in here. Not really much that can be done by the Red Kites. Obviously, we see the Pit Ponies are just going in, doing damage, getting kills, and we see it going on here in the kill feed. Just everyone dying on behalf of the Red Kites.
Yeah, Red Kites try what they can. They get the portal in. They go with the Storm ultimate as well, but the Storm ultimate actually killed off. Invisibility barricade still comes down, and the attacker's respawn advantage will be kicking in just a couple of seconds. And actually, it seems like the Red Kites have done a pretty good job of sustaining this fight. Valerian falls down again, and then again a huge chunk of damage comes through. They have that Storm ult that they needed. On their own is Jimmy, the Thor, doing whatever they need to take him out. There is a touch on the point, but Greg knows better than to be fooled by that. Not fooled, gets the push completed for the Pit Ponies. The defense was phenomenal. Red Kites have a lot of defending of their own to do now.
Yeah, such an exceptional round coming out there from the Pit Ponies. It just looks so one-sided going into this. Not really able to, like, the Red Kites just can't get through. They get one person through, kill, they end up losing two. It's just, that's a punishment after punishment after punishment. And this is what happens when you see people running a meta in comparison to strength. Obviously, you see the Pit Ponies coming out here. We're running their 1 DPS, their 2 tanks, their 3 supports. And then you just have the 2-2-2 from the other side. And there's not really much that can be done to mirror it.
We do see a bit of confusion of the Pit Ponies, what they opt to go for here. Leon opting to switch from the tank to the Wolverine. Similar style of hero, though, to a tank. You know, Wolverine considered by a few to be basically a Vanguard, but almost a tank killer style of Vanguard. So I'd expect to see Leon getting for those flanks and trying to look for those cheap picks. Conchcast goes back to that Penny Parker, which we did see earlier on, to great effect, I might mention, but Penny Parker struggles a little bit to an exceptionally mobile enemy team with a Black Panther and a Wolverine. That's actually a Spider-Man now, not a Black Panther, but that is two characters which I would say Penny Parker does quite well into on-the-ground assassins, but with Storm nearby as well, could be quite difficult. They have changed this composition up entirely, though, brought the Doctor Strange and the Thor back out. Thor in combination with that Storm as well, had that team-up bonus there. I expect to see some big things coming out here, but it has to be a huge defense for the Red Kites.
Yeah, they've been doing so well on defense recently. The only thing is, can they keep their defensive attributes going here? Conchcast does find Greg, but I Am Noob just punishes DeLorean. And Conchcast possibly getting punished out here as well. Possibly being caught low on HP. Not really too much that can be done if he does manage to get caught here, as the Red Kite will be down too.
Yeah, definitely don't want to get any more momentum building for the Pit Ponies here, and Conchcast doing what they can to stall on this point, doing a pretty good job of it, but they need to protect their healers, and that will only last for so long with just them. But getting these consistent web shots off will be doing a lot to sustain themselves, trying to keep some damage off the orb, but they're being blocked out from the orb of the healing. They're still trying to stay alive, but cannot get out, and completely trapped. Aya Agamotto free to go ahead. Now the ultimates go flying, no tank available for the Red Kites to defend with. Now they have to try to hold up for as long as they can. They've done a decent job. That payload is already close to its objective. God of Thunder, not enough for the kill, but the hammer swings on. Cats Eat Cats goes down. Spider Sweeper coming on in now for Conchcast to do what they can. There is the maximum pulse coming out. Doesn't find any kills that were needed, though. Ults go flying from Red Kites. They know they need to do everything that they've got just to hold this point, but it is so close to the end. Clear there already. The Punisher trying to dive on the point. Jimmy can't do anything. Conchcast go down. Pit Ponies with a dominant game one.
Yeah, it's just so much utter domination. Pure just damage output after damage output. Nothing at all that can actually be done here by this Red Kites team. All you can just see, they go forward a little bit. Greg kills 2, Leon kills 2, the Storm kills 2. There's not really much of an opportunity that can be taken here on behalf of the Red Kites.
Oh, I have to point out there, I Am Noob 22 on the Storm, not looking particularly noob at it. 20 kills, 0 deaths. Fantastic showing from them there. It's got to be so tough as the Red Kites to have done so well on that exact map into the Wizards, and then you come into this team of the Pit Ponies who just have a really, really crushing win over you. You know, that push from the Pit Ponies basically never stalled. You know, it got slowed down a little bit, but then it was always trading 1-for-1, right? And when you're trading 1-for-1, that benefits the team with the closest spawn point, which, as it happens right then, was the Pit Ponies on attack there. But as we saw earlier, Speedy, the first map basically doesn't mean anything. You can still have a big turnaround on different game modes, different style of map, and, you know, as much as the Red Kites might feel a little bit sore after that one, because it can be a tough loss, they still know that they have played, or they've already played both Convergent maps before. They could easily play another one, and I think they'll be quietly more confident coming into this, so they're not coming in maybe as cold as the Pit Ponies are.
Yeah, the Pit Ponies coming into this, I'm not gonna lie, personally, I do have a bit of PTSD, because I know half of these players are the ones who used to play with the Overwatch, and all I can remember seeing from these Pit Ponies players in every tournament that they play, it usually starts off with some form of just up-class domination. They refuse to let people just build their time, build their space, build their momentum, and they'll just try and control the game all that they can. Obviously, the Red Kites not doing so much in regards to counteract it, but whether or not they can actually do much more following on from it, we'll have to see as the game goes on.
Definitely going to have to keep an eye on it, but we are right on in for this next game, and I do wonder if there's going to be any kind of picks and bans switch up. We did see the Storm slip through in that set and in that last game, and it seemed to me that the Pit Ponies had a much more competent Storm than the Red Kite. So I think we'll see a change up there, probably a Storm ban to come out from the Red Kites this time around. And yep, right on cue. there is the Storm being banned out. But we do see Cleon still with that Captain America hovered. Clearly wants to play it. I do wonder if the Red Kites are going to let it through, and if we can see why Cleon has actually forced a cap ban.
I think it may just be a case of they're picking on him a little bit. Because we know that CONCACAF doesn't really run in regards to the Captain America unless it's like a last minute effort that he has to play. So I think they're just banning the cap to bully Leon.
I'm interested to see that the Pit Ponies have opted to save the Thor pick, right? And Greg, fantastic performance on the Thor then. But Thor really finds their value at the moment by having a Storm to pair up with, right? That Storm partnership just seems to be really effective. So I am a bit shocked to see that locked in without the Storm available, but Greg felt good, clearly wants to play it. I suppose you have to give them the benefit of the doubt there. It seemed there that the Red Kites opted to not select a character to protect. They will just be letting that through, and they will be banning out the Cloak and Dagger. It feels like Red Kites not confident in their depth of hero pool here, trying to keep as much off the table as possible.
Yeah, they can do that all they want, but by the looks of it, they already have their counter swaps ready. Seeing it with I Am Noob with the Hawkeye, Braun with the Mantis, obviously Cloak and Dagger being banned now. Going to have to force the adaptation here as we see Seria possibly going here for the Rocket, and Leon now on the Captain America. Looks like they're done bullying him.
Yeah, we're going to have to see, again, how this pick goes. Clearly he already has the Lord portrait on that, so it definitely has plenty of time on this character. But like you mentioned at the start of the cast, Captain America considered by many to be the worst tank in the game right now. But when you are playing in these amateur competitive environments, sometimes just having that one really strong pick, that one unique pick to you, can be really good. And as a tank player myself, I will say I find Captain America so much fun to play. I've never found him to be that super strong. I have to pick this character, especially on a map like this, defending here. But Leon seems happy, wants to go for it. I want to see it. I want to see why so much priority has been put on not only this Captain America, but also this Thor from Greg. What do the Red Kites do into it, as they have the exact same frontline lineup?
Yeah, the only difference here we're really seeing, obviously, is the three supports going in favor of the Pit Ponies here, and running the 2-1-3, with the 2 DPS, the 1 tank, and the 3 supports. And Greg is looking to line himself up in a bit of a interesting way to start off this game. I did not realize you could stand in those ramparts.
Yeah, I had no idea, but Greg obviously put more hours into this game than me. Tried to scout out the enemy, didn't spot them, keeping an eye out for a potential portal, but the portal is not the situation you have to worry about. It's the high ground advantage. Oh my goodness! Immediately right on top of them and getting plenty of kills. You're seeing there the strength of this Pit Ponies team. The Red Kites try to make a play, shut down immediately. Valeria, though, does a good job there with that Moon Knight, getting a counter pick of their own. At the moment, this is all right for the Red Kites. You don't need to win the point off of the first push, but you just want to build up as much ult charge as you possibly can. It looks like this push will be going to the way of the Pit Ponies, but much better from the Red Kites in that we're actually seeing a bit of variation in the strategy.
Looking at the biggest part to play towards this game, obviously, have been these Rocket Raccoon revives. Massive plays just coming in from both Rockets, keeping people alive, keeping the fights going, just doing all they possibly can just to keep winning this game.
Now we're seeing there from Leon, nice damage with that shield, just chaining through multiple enemies multiple times. Dives on straight away with that assault going in and just swinging on the backline. Can they keep this Luna Slow alive? Gets the freeze onto Cleon, and it looks like already the Red Kites down 2 members. Some were pushing in as the others are getting pushed away. You see the Rocket Raccoon being chased down there. I Am Noob gets the shots from this Hela, and another push stymied there by the Pit Ponies, but not too much committed by the Red Kites. They're still building up to that one big push.
Yeah, it just looks like the Red Kites are just looking to try and build some ult charge, push into the fight with 5 ultimates coming here. But the only thing is, once they
Oh,
use up
man.
these ults, Vivo just getting punished by Greg. Greg getting another as well, finding 2 from the Moon Knight and the 4 on his counterpart. What are the Red Kites actually going to do to adapt to this game?
Greg just storming forward. All this time, they had a Captain America on the flank just fighting whoever they want. There's a big combination there with that charge coming out, but then the supercharger counted out. Both Rocket Raccoons pop the ultimate, but nobody quite finding a lead in this fight just yet. Leon starts running in, starts swinging, punching, throwing, doing whatever you can, but it's not effective damage just yet. Finally found a window for some effective damage. Didn't manage to finish anyone off just yet. Only 60 seconds on the clock for this first point. They want to get something on the board. Do the Red Kites. You can't just let this point go, or you're only playing for at best the draw. God of Thunder comes out. Valerian cannot survive through it. The hammer swings are great from Greg. The lightning shots are even better from Greg. Shoved away this push. It doesn't matter if you find anyone else, but Greg doesn't care. Greg's going to try and find something else, trying to find that hammer throw, and does not get it. The Red Kites have to get a move on less than 30 seconds on the clock.
It just looks like Greg's just playing to hold this space permanently, not really giving the Red Kites the opportunity to push anything. Missing the ultimate as well there, coming out from behalf of Jimmy. Just looks like they're just struggling now.
Really struggling to get anything together. They do get onto the point, but they've not man anyone down in the process. The Pit Ponies having a great time with this defense. Look at the pressure Greg puts on the Billy Ray up. That is it. The first match, sorry, the first round attempted by the Red Kites there doesn't net them anything. 0% on the capture progress, which means all that the Pit Ponies have to do is get the first tick of that first point. Pit Ponies looking phenomenal right now.
Yeah, just so much pressure they're allowed to hold on here. They're just dominating the game without really having much of a countersuit going off in play here. Looks like there's a bit of a miscommunication between Vivu and Billy, as they're both just picking the same people on and on and on. But they're running. Okay, they've got to be messing with us. They've got to be messing with us.
Look, if you can't win the damage fight, just don't die. And the only way you don't die is if everyone heals each other. So the Red Kites here, look, they've tried to play standard. They've tried to match the Pit Ponies at their game. Neither strategy has worked. So they're going to try something else. Now, I do have a lot of fear for them because Leon is on this Doctor Strange, and there is plenty of locations for this Doctor Strange to drop a portal, get behind your enemy team, and it just so happens your enemy team of 6 supports who are not going to do a great job of standing up to you. Speedy, I'll let you take it away. Let's see how the Pit Ponies do, and can the Red Kites, with this interesting composition, do anything to defend against it?
Oh wait, no, they have switched one of the supports. They are now also running a Mr. Fantastic, who is just coming back from spawn. But it looks like Vivo's looking to play off a bit of a freezing here. I am Noob killing 2, possibly about to get to 3. And Seria does get the 3rd. I am Noob getting his 3rd kill. Billy getting res by himself in his cocoon. And that takes the series to 2-0 Pit Ponies.
2-0 Pit Ponies. It took them 30 seconds, 31 seconds if you really want to be precise. And I think most of that was waiting for the Doctor Strange portal to actually get set up and placed. Greg, yet again on this Thor, takes the MVP and looking great. Honestly, looking so great so far are the Pit Ponies. Look, there are tons of reasons why the Red Kites might be struggling. They have already played today, might be feeling the effect of what was a long, extended set, right? You know, it went to 5 games. They were on match point themselves, but did end up losing. And now you come in to the Pit Ponies, who are just playing so well. Man, it's a really, really tough spot to be in if you are the Red Kites right now.
Yeah, they're just being utterly dominated. There's not really anything that can be done for them here. They whip out the interesting comp coming to the end of that map, coming into 6 supports, switching it up, running 5 supports and 1 Mr. Fantastic. But I Am Noob just dominating that back line, not really giving them the opportunity to really do anything afterwards. It's just such a one-sided game going in here.
I Am Noob, I would like to point out, still yet to die in this set. It's been some relatively fast games, so it's maybe not too surprising, but still almost the entire team going undying there. In fact, it was only MVP Greg falling down once to Valorian there. And yeah, it was one of those games. Look, we've all had it in ranked. Sometimes you just get crushed. But look, it's far from over for the Red Kites. It is a first to 3, so still you can win the next 3 games, and all of a sudden you find yourselves still alive in this group stage. It's still to play for. They still have opportunity, but of course it's just so difficult. Is there anything, Speedy, you'd suggest they can do? Do they have any recourse here, maybe in the picks and bans, maybe in their choice of composition? How do you possibly fight back into this? Keeping in mind, we will be going into a King of the Hill style matchup. Maybe that leans to be just a little bit easier for them.
Well, personally, I think that going off the way this game is going, I don't really see much hope for the Red Kites. They're just being bullied over and over now. They're getting through this, and every time they get through, it's just a case of everyone dies, except I Am Noob, who manages to figure himself out every fight somehow.
Yeah, gotten away with so much so far, and on Hella and Storm as well, which are relatively safe picks, but still could potentially get picked off. But no, it just seems like I Am Noob immune to anything that the Red Kites are throwing at him.
Yeah, they just can't really find a way to deal with him. Like, they obviously first map they go in, they don't ban Storm. He runs out on a Storm, just kills everything. Going into the second map, they go, you know what, let's ban Storm. Whips out the Hella instead and kills everything. There's not really much that they're able to really do about them, unless they got to switch something up here just to try and allow themselves to play the game.
Yeah, someone needs to bring out that pick that really backs them up, right? Unfortunately for the Red Kites, in 2 sets now, we haven't really seen them go for these high tempo characters, right? We saw a little bit of Psylocke previously, but we haven't been seeing your Black Panthers, your Spider-Mans, even a Wolverine, something that just changes things up a bit, asks some different questions, because unfortunately when they're just throwing some Punisher, some Moon Knight, it's just not happening at the moment. And that doesn't mean you pick Mantis and you pick Jeff the Shark. You don't want to be going that far to something different, but you definitely need to try something, ask, like I said, a different question. We've got Mr. Fantastic on the table, not being prioritized by anyone so far, but definitely adds something new. Again, it's a character that not many people have played too much against. Invisible Woman has been, at the top of the list of healers, of course, but when the choice for your tanks and your DPS characters is so wide, haven't seen a lot of Mr. Fantastic. If you got a Mr. Fantastic in pocket, something like now is the time to bring it out. Just ask some more questions. That's all I want to see from Red Kites, and put up a better showing and prove to yourselves that you can do a better showing than you've had so far this set.
Yeah, they just need to try and really up their game. We do have some people in the chat saying that Conchcast plays better at 4%. He's been taken off charge and is now only playing on 2%. And now we are being greeted by hashtag Save Elmo. So I don't quite understand what has happened in this chat while we've been having this conversation. But apparently Elmo has been murdered. Oh, for God's sake, I just realised what they're on about Elmo.
Yeah, it might be the noose that Elmo has, which I will compliment you for. Fantastic choice to color code the noose to Elmo's fur color. It adds to the effect. It adds to the gruesomeness of it. It's quite a macabre scene, you might say. But it's It's gotten someone's attention, and yes, we might have to
Yes,
hashtag save Elmo. More importantly, we might have to hashtag save Red Kites, because they go down here, they're out. Unfortunately, this is their group stage, and they will be coming through losing 2 matches. You have to win at least 1 to progress, and unfortunately, as fast as their Marvel Rivals season has started, it could end unless we have the massive turnaround. And Speedy, I know you're looking forward to the massive turnaround. Take us up to about midnight. Keep an eye on the clock there. If they're going to turn it around, it's going to take a massive effort. They have to pull that up from themselves and dig deep, find a strategy, find a tactic that works into this Pit Ponies team, who have looked extremely strong. And I'm very excited to see how this Pit Ponies team shake up against the Wizards when we do eventually get to see that matchup. But we are now in to our picks and bans for this domination matchup. Pit Ponies up to ban out that Bruce Banner as they have been, and of course the Red Kites ban out that Storm, but they have to find something. I'd expect to see Greg, having that Thor secured for them here. If I'm Red Kites, I'm just, rubbing my head thinking, what do we do? What is the answer?
I think the way they're looking at it, to be honest, they're now just playing the ban based off of what I Am Noob is playing. And I personally think they should be trying to play the ban off who Greg is playing, or Leon. Try and get rid of that Captain America, get rid of that Thor, play the focus, and they've completely played the ban off I Am Noob. And let's see if he can maybe now go another game without getting a single death.
Well, look, they've decided to lock that Squirrel Girl, which I'm fairly certain was not at risk of being banned, but maybe that is the choice that the Red Kites have chosen to take down Thor. Thor, of course, doesn't deal too well to just massive amounts of damage and a little bit of CC being thrown their way. I do wonder if they will actually select this Squirrel Girl now that they have opted to save the pick, but for the time being, they have not gone for that. I Am Noob looking to tempt fate on the Deathless run and has gone for a Wolverine, a much less safe choice to go for, but you never know. You might still have that Undying. Not the easiest character to kill is Wolverine, especially on an experienced player.
Yeah, Wolverine, just a very difficult character to deal with most of the time. Obviously, we do see the triple tank, triple support coming out from the Red Kites here. Whereas we do have a 2-2-2 actually coming out on behalf of the Pit Ponies here. Are the Pit Ponies going to be able to actually do something here? As we do see a team up actually coming in here on behalf of the Red Kites.
Seeing that Venom and the Petty Parker team up, which pretty good on capture point maps, right? Gives that Petty Parker the ability to just affect an AoE around herself even when you're not actively using your mines or your nests or your web shots. So we'll see if Jimmy is able to make use of that. But immediately, Portal coming out, looking to get way into enemy territory is Conchcast. Gets a fantastic spot if they can hold it. It's a great spot for Penny Parker to get set up to. And yeah, you see the nest dropped in there immediately. But Leon obviously on this Captain America spots it out very quickly, communicates that to their team. But the space control in favor of the Red Kites right now, and getting right in the face of the Pit Ponies early on. Can they keep it going though? Conchcast almost falling down right away.
I Am Noob looking like he's also actually about to finally experience his first possible death. Oh nope, he's been carried back up to full HP, and instead they're now looking for the tanks.
Looking to shred Conchcast here. Still fighting up though, and the healers really paying off. That's triple heal and triple tank combination working out so well so far. But the damage coming out from Wolverine, just too much. And now I Am Noob does take a spill. The damage coming out from the Penny Pocket just too much. On the point, a bit in favor of the Red Kites right now, hoping to push forward. Have had a good start, but they need to keep this one rolling. The ults are flying from both teams. You see the Mantis pop the ult as well. That Soul Resurgence coming through to keep people alive, but nobody is falling right now. The respawns have come through. Red Kites make it back to the scene. You see the Venom on the point, gets the ultimate off there as well. Aya Vagamoto comes out right on cue with that charge and still managing to stay alive, but only for a moment, does stop falling. The Pit Ponies have finally been broken. Red Kites take the point.
We are also seeing here, I Am Noob has died twice since the full counteraction for his playstyle. So it looks like their idea to just disable I Am Noob is starting to work out for them.
Oh, can I Am Noob turn this one around for themselves? They have had some big impact already. You know, we saw the damage potential coming out onto Conchcast there. When you really get rolling as Wolverine, the damage output is huge. There's the spectacular spin coming through. Only gets one, though. And despite the abduct, only able to trade out one kill. Greg falls down again. We're seeing more kills coming out from the Red Kites, feeling much more at home on this capture point map. Have again swatted away the Pit Ponies.
Yeah, it just looks like the Pit Ponies here are just playing based off of they're playing off of sparks now. They rocked out these first two maps with so much damage, so much value. But since these bans have come out, the Red Kites are just holding the whole field. There's nothing really that the Pit Ponies are doing that's really that nice to watch. It's all just ending horribly in their sense.
Yeah, forcing the Pit Ponies to commit so hard to kill one character at a time is netting the massive gain. Oh, but doesn't manage to get to the safety there. Does Conchcast, and now Greg able to fire off again. All of this damage coming out from the Thor, but the Rocket Raccoon is slippery and starting to escape. We are seeing some kills now going in favor of the Pit Ponies there. We see a kill for Greg, putting out even more damage, gets the kills, has the ultimate in pocket. Oh, the portal coming out instead for Conchcast, but it's not going to be for anything. And don't do it, Greg. Don't do it. Greg does it and goes right back out. Still wanting to rush this point. The Red Kites, I thought they might play it a little bit slower, but they opt not to. And now putting in whatever they can. You see them dropping that invisibility barricade down. The Aya Vagamoto comes out and is huge onto Greg. Does the damage, but doesn't take them out. I Am Noob slicing and dicing through the enemy team. A revive comes onto Valerian, but still the fight going in favor of the Pit Ponies. They've swatted away two attacks now, and the Red Kites don't have a lot of ult in the bank.
Yeah, it's just like I said before, pure domination. Nothing really that's getting done on behalf of the Red Kites now. Once the Pit Ponies make their space, they take their time. The Red Kites just don't do anything. They just stand there and crumble and watch as their hopes just fall.
Hopes are falling and falling in the form of Greg just lightening off all of this damage that they got in pocket, trying to find a good flank. Oh, the God of Thunder is going to be phenomenal here. All the way onto the backline, gets a dunk as well, and takes out a priority target in an enemy support. Now they try to turn the damage on because the revive actually comes out onto Valeria. They need to take out Greg. They have any success, but Greg dashes back to their team and gets back alive despite all the commitment coming through. The Spider Sweeper coming on out, but look at the damage coming out now. The last stand out from I Am Noob as well. The damage is just so much in favor of the Pit Ponies. They're sweeping up the kills. Whoever they want to fall does fall down, and another attack pushed down by the Pit Ponies. 82% on the clock. Red Kites have to get a move on.
Yeah, the Pit Ponies are just looking to hold this out here. We see it going up to 90% here. As it's coming towards the end, are the Pit Ponies gonna actually be able to hold this out now? Or are all these ultimates the Red Kites actually have at their disposal that's gonna come to use? As we hear all of these ults just being used. We have Venom, Rocket, Invisible Woman. Now we have Conchcast coming out as well. No ultimates actually left on behalf of the Red Kites here. I think the Pit Ponies do actually have the time to give the point away and play for a retouch.
They're looking to retake it. Greg takes a lot of damage starting out, but does have that God of Thunder ultimate available yet again. Looking for a flank in, looks to go over the top, thinks a little better over. They need to touch the point. They do touch the point, and they shall trigger the overtime. You can see Greg wants in. Greg wants to get on top of a priority target. Chooses to go on the tanks as well. God of Thunder coming down, but doesn't find any picks this time. Gets netted out of the charge they were going for. This is just going to be a full-on brawl on the point. You see I Am Noob doing what they can. You do see, though, the cloak and dagger dagger ults from both sides, just a pit and the pools of sustain for both sides. Nobody going to be going down just yet, but everyone's sustaining up, trying to get whatever ults they can. You see the net going down. You see the health bar falling low for Jimmy here, but Jimmy does stay alive. The nest does fall. The supercharger comes out. That Sia now going to provide a lot of advantage for the Red Kites if they can make it work, but nobody's going down. Finally, we see the Pit Ponies get a 2-kill lead in this fight, and that is where the Red Kites start to crumble. They're cleared off the point. The point is retaken by the Pit Ponies. They just have to wait for the overtime to tick down, and with a hotly contested match, it looks like the Pit Ponies take this first round.
Yeah, that might be one of the best displays we've actually seen come out from the Red Kites here. Obviously, coming into that point with that TP early, not really. I don't think they actually were expected to do that by the Pit Ponies. Catching the Pit Ponies off guard just a little bit. Where you see, I Am Noob did actually experience his first deaths all in one map, which is kind of unfortunate for his sake, since they have been playing bans to stop him from playing. But then Greg coming in with his 4, Leon coming in with his Captain America. There's not really too much that can be done to stop them at this point.
It's such a good choice as well for I Am Noob to take this Wolverine while playing into a triple tank composition, right? Like, everyone knows triple tank is a valid option at the moment. Triple tank, triple support just seems to be working for Red Kites right now. But I Am Noob thinking ahead, taking that anti-tank pick. It hasn't been the most successful pick, but I do wonder if it would just be a little bit worse if he didn't even have that. But yeah, we are seeing both sides coming at it again. No teleport available for Conchcast this time around. Going to have to walk their team over. But at this point, going to be much more difficult. The geometry here of this map completely different to the previous one. So I do wonder who it will benefit. The portal does actually come out, and Red Kite's immediately behind the Pit Ponies.
We see a lot of low HP.
Oh, great
massive eye of us. I can't talk. Discovered I cannot talk. Massive strange shot coming out from the Conchcast there. As we also hear the Penny Parker ult coming out, forcing off this damage, forcing out this space. Ron does find a kill on Bevo, who does get revived by the Rocket Revive. Is there much that can be really done here on behalf of Wolfhounds? Pit Ponies, or are they just not going to be able to hold it out?
Trying to do what they can. The respawns have been coming through, but it looks like the Red Kites are getting a slight advantage. Traded back out by I Am Noob on this Wolverine. And there's Leon. They're committing to that nest, taking it down, and the point will be captured by the Pit Ponies. The Red Kites gave it up for a touch too long. Unfortunately, the frontline strength of the Pit Ponies just carrying them forward, getting them so much space. And now have control of the point, just have to wait for the Red Kites to make their move. They've got time to work with, do the Red Kites, but no ultimates in pocket. Whereas the Pit Ponies, they have the Last Stand, they have the God of Thunder. You see the God of Thunder coming up there, doing a lot of damage, but not finding the picks you're looking for. But the Last Stand queued up right behind it. Perfectly played from I Am Noob, and now the rest of the Pit Ponies can just run through this Red Kites team. They're putting up whatever fight they can, but Leon swinging gets a triple kill on the Captain America, wants a fourth, and shall get the fourth. That's a quad kill. What's the fifth? Looking for the fifth, hunting this Rocket Raccoon, who's just too mobile. They can't get him, but that is not what the Red Kites need to see, because there's still ults in the pocket for the Pit Ponies.
Yeah, the Pit Ponies just holding this space really well now, like I said before. Building these ults, using his advantage. Cap on Leon on the cap, getting the double. Can he possibly get the triple 2 fights in a row? Possibly looking now, going for that strange pick. And Aya Agamotto gets only 2. Not really much that can be done when half your team is dead. Such a well-played fight by the Pit Ponies here.
You can see why Leon loves this pick so much. He's just having such a fun time wailing on this Doctor Strange, and they do eventually fall down. Leon going all the way into the enemy team's base, falls down to 27 HP, and then still manages just barely to get back to their team. Only Captain America things, man. Absolutely nuts. And now this is just a full-on spawn camp coming through, but the ultimates start flying out. Catsy Cats does go down. The supercharger is there along with this galactic legend, but it's still not enough. I am Noob slicing through the enemy team yet again. Leon does what they can. The point is almost capped, almost stolen away by Bill, but that is too much. Leon says, no cap, I am the cap, takes down and prevents the enemy team's capture happening, and that shall be that for this set. A dominant performance for the Pit Ponies. They win this game 3 matches to 0. Great performance from them.
Yeah, such a well-rounded performance, to be honest, from behalf of the Pit Ponies. Not really much that could have been done against them. Pure domination at the end of the day. Incredible performances all around, though, can't lie. Red Kites really well this season. Maybe next season they can get a little bit more lucky with their group pick, and maybe they can get a bit further through. Although, unfortunately, that will be their last game of the tournament.
Will be out, unfortunately, and it's such a shame because of how close their match against the Wizards felt, and it felt like they just didn't have it in the tank when we got to fight up against the Pit Ponies. But the Pit Ponies looked really strong. I would be concerned if any of the other teams playing in this tournament, you have to look at those Pit Ponies and wonder, man, they were strong and they had ideas, they had pocket picks, right? You can ban out the Storm, you can ban out your Bruce Banners, but you still have to worry about that Captain America spawn camping you single-handedly. What a good performance from the Pit Ponies. I am very excited to see some more from them next week. I'm also excited to see what happens in the other group, of course, currently playing, so we don't know the results of that. We will not, unfortunately, be able to bring you that result before we go off, but looked really good. Very happy to be here for the first Marvel Rivals cast. And Speedy, what did you think of what you saw, and are you excited to see any more?
I can't lie, I'm very excited to see how these semi-finals are going to warm up now. Obviously, we know that the Pit Ponies and the Wizards are already straight through, alongside with the Rejects and the Wolfhounds. However, we can say we have got the result. The Wolfhounds have just won their game 3-0 as well.
Ooh.
So that's a double 3-0 going in here. So we will be seeing in the finals or semi-finals either the Wolfhounds versus what I believe will end up being the Wizards, and then the Pit Ponies playing the Rejects.
Yeah, we will, of course, have to see who comes out on top between the Wizards and the Pit Ponies when they do face each other. For the seeding, loser has to face the Wolfhound, so let's see how that goes. Plenty to play for there, but plenty has been played, and there's still more to come, but that is it from us today. It's been such a great showing, such a long showing as well. Marvel Rivals, of course, new to us, new to the scene, but great experience has been had by all. But that's been it from me, Judas, and Speedy as well, and everyone, of course, behind the scenes too. Thank you for joining us, everyone here, and we hope to see you again, same time next week.